This fucking Aiden Projects guy, huh? What a fucking dickhead. No warning whatsoever this stream. Here we go. Tough shit. Oops. This guy like yesterday if he wanted to do this conversation after like waiting a week on it. And I get a message, you ready in 5? You free? So fuck it, analytics gonna be terrible. That's all right. Who cares? Who cares? What is up, everyone? Holy shit. Live again? Twice? 2 days in a row? I'm gonna take fucking a long ass break from looking at the internet shit. Right after this. I try not to be very on my phone. Especially with the like content creator shit. It's just like fucking retarded. It's like a retarded way to spend your time, is what I found. It's like genuinely the biggest waste of time that one could possibly have is like scrolling their phone on Twitter if you're like a smaller content creator, or like fucking interacting with people on Discord and like, you know what I mean? It genuinely, I've got a fucking, I can't even do like a full length stream because like right after this, I've got to meet up with a buddy who I've already got plans with. So we are gonna cram this shit in because I'm not letting Aiden Projects run away in bad faith from the debate. All right. He's gonna get pressed on the Chud logic question. Or whatever the fuck. I don't know what the fuck is going on. Alright, you ready? I am ready. I am so ready. I am so prepared. What is up, everyone? How are we today? How is everyone doing? Holy shit, I got prescription glasses again, I can see. I can read your insightful commentary in the chat. So I no longer can just be a bad streamer on excuses of me having terrible fucking eyesight. Not at all in the high energy state to be running a massive stream. So maybe it's best that this one has absolutely no prep work. What's up, Water Bucket? What's up, Slow Reporter? Gay? Very gay. Incredibly gay, because Aiden's gonna be on the stream, so it'll be as homosexual as possible. All right, I'm waiting on the Aiden call. How's everyone in chat? How are we doing? How's it been? Oh shit.
Bonk.
Oh shit, what's up, dude?
Wait, let me pull your. Oh, you want me to pull your cam up? I'll pull your.
If you want to.
You look like the fucking Unabomber.
Damn, you can't fucking roast me like that just for having glasses. I've got prescription glasses I have to wear to see shit. And you're like, well, you look like a terrorist.
That's not a bad. The Unabomber's not a horrible.
You would say that. You would say that in particular.
Let me pop out your.
To be honest, looking like it's not a bad thing to be the Unabomber.
Wait, hold on. Bear with me here. All right, so I'm gonna share the screen, and then we'll put it.
Okay.
We'll do window capture.
You gotta do all that.
Yeah, sorry, I've never done a. Listen, this happened with the Jake Weddle.
You can just have the audio. Just the audio is
No,
fine,
no,
sure.
it's cooler. No, it's cooler. Hold on.
Oh, it's cooler. Okay, then turn your
It's
camera
cooler.
on. If
Makes
you
it
get
more
to have the
professional.
video debate, I gotta have the
You can
video
watch it
debate,
on
too.
my. You can watch it on my because if I
Oh,
turn it
so
on,
I'm supposed to like do the thing where I like pull up your stream in the background and I get like the long ass
Yes,
latency.
yes,
You're a fucking
yes,
gaylord. You
yes.
suck.
You've got it now.
You're evil.
You've got it now. All
What's
right.
been up? Holy shit, long time no talk. What's been going on?
Well, yeah, everything's been fine. You know, just been streaming, living the life.
Dude, your stream is like popping right now. Okay.
It
The
happens.
Aiden projects. AIDS gang is rising.
It's
before
true.
my very
AIDS
eyes.
is hardest in the game. We advocate for the position of we think AIDS is like a morally neutral thing, and we need to spread more of it.
It's morally neutral, yet you need to spread more of it.
Why does Bunk look white now? Dude, he race swapped?
No, I'm like Logic Black. I can say the N, I choose not to, out of the kindness of my own heart. But I can say it. If you ever find a clip, I can say it. It's okay.
Based. All right. So listen, people have been. I watched a bit of your coverage. People have been. You've been making a bit of a fuss about the Chud stuff recently. I want to get your opinions on it. Maybe have a discussion about it. I will inform you. I'm very sleep depressed. So you're gonna have the one up here, but.
Oh,
I'll do it anyways.
I'm not prepared for a stream either, to be honest with you. I got like fucking. I woke up at like fucking 5 o'clock or whatever the hell. It's cold as fuck where I am, so there's like no chance of sleeping. No, the take is like really fucking simple. It's like piss simple. Having the Noah Samson shit come out and people like freak the fuck out and like burn him at the stake for calling Chud Logic a pedophile is really, really bizarre to me, because whenever we bring up the Chud Logic allegations and we actually take a look at the morals as it concerns to the type of relationship he was engaging with there and what he had knowledge of whenever he was doing so, it just bears out that it's like very, very clearly an incredibly morally wrong thing. Almost all of the same things that make a relationship between a 33-year-old and a like 17 and 8-month-year-old bad, like all the dynamics that exist there, all those social discrepancies that are there are all instantiated as well. They're just like barely 18. There's not like this magical line that ticks over. We all seem to understand this whenever we're talking about Call Me Carson. I'm just saying, I'm gonna like, do we all understand this whenever we're talking about somebody like Call Me Carson? That's like not a fucking controversial take, but all of a sudden it's fucking wild to call this person out for this 15-year age gap that existed in this relationship they were engaging in with a fan. That's just absurd to me. We burn people at the stake for far less. We would ridicule them endlessly if we didn't like them, and I think that's just like a clear showing of bias. I don't think we should associate with somebody like that.
Okay, I'll address everything else. In regards to like the double standard point, like I'm pretty sure the community's overall position was that the Carson shit was like super overblown. Like everybody in like the commentary sphere. I don't know who you follow.
The reason that we said that is we understood that all of a sudden when somebody's 17, it's like they're a fucking retard, and then when they become 18, they're divinely intervened with like all of this knowledge and understanding of the world and all of that shit. Like we understood that. We understood that this is a gradient, right? Maturing is a gradient. There's the development that happens there.
Sure, of course. Nobody thinks there's a magic switch that flips overnight, although I agree they act like it does. Hard lines don't exist in society, so you have 17-year-olds that might be more mature than certain 18-year-olds, more socially experienced and understand the implications of like a sexual or flirtatious relationship than some 18-year-olds. But the age of consent, the line exists to generally reduce like harm to kids because
I agree with that. Yeah, true.
We can't assess every individual case. So we have to set the hard line somewhere, and the hard line goes there because 18, I think, is generally, you're getting out of high school, you've lived through high school, you have a general understanding of like sexual and flirtatious relationships and the outcomes of that, although you are like always, you are always learning and garnering wisdom through your life, trial and error. But around 18, you kind of, most 18-year-olds understand the nature and expectations of a sexual, romantic, or flirtatious relationship.
Yeah, so when you say we can't assess every case, yes, we certainly can. We can morally evaluate any given relationship. You should be morally evaluating any given relationship, even if it's between two individuals who are like of the same age. For example, like if you've never had a sexual relationship before, you're not going to really know how to lay down those types of boundaries with somebody. If you're somebody who's more experienced, you're going to be more cautious whenever you're pushing through those things in a relationship, right? There are a few things you could be more socially mature, obviously, and there's like understandings about certain types of the like past relationship experience, some social maturity that exists there. But there are many things which are also at play there, which make this incredibly difficult to like to say that it's like there isn't a moral wrong being committed. While we do have laws that instantiate a certain age of consent, and those laws are taken to trial. You take somebody to trial over those things, and the decision to prosecute or not is done when that's done with discretion. I'm not really making a legal argument here, but if we're talking about legality, it's totally legal for Chud logic to fuck somebody who's 17 and 8 months old.
Yeah.
Right? It's like completely legal in this country.
But when you're saying, but
whenever we're talking about, I'm sorry, I'm trying to address all the things that you said, but if you want to like interject, that's like all good. No. Yeah. No, go ahead. You good?
Yeah, I know. I just want to like just stick to one. I mean, you are saying one thing, but okay. So sure, I know we're not making I'm not saying, obviously, I'm not saying we can't individually assess like moral examples given to us. When you were talking about like obviously people don't magically change 17 and 18. Yeah. That seems to be like that statement seems to be related to the fact the age of consent is 18, and then I'm explaining like why that exists, and in a legal context. Yeah, it would be hard. The legal system would be totally overloaded if they had to if a judge had to assess every relationship that people were engaged in. But yes, I agree with you that morally speaking, yes, we can assess like individual circumstances.
Yeah, we can assess individual circumstances. And when we take a look at the circumstances that exist here, the things that make the relationship bad, the reason why we have this age of consent, why we find these types of relationships to be abhorrent, when you take a look at the things that make that be the case, right, the reason behind the intuition itself, you'll find that like almost, if not all of them, are instantiated in Chud logic's case, like just about all of them, right? This person they believe to be somebody, they believe them to be a virgin. The Chud logic at this point is divorced. He's been through an entire, not only is a sexual interactions with people, he's divorced, he's had a kid. This person is a content creator who they look up to, which is like, it's on its own, it's not like an insane thing. They're 33 years old. There's a 15-year age gap which exists there, which is wildly outside of the areas of the social acceptability as it is broadly when you look at polling data, when you look at the types of things that we're trying to look at whenever we're talking about somebody's ability to engage in a relationship. This person's going to have incredibly hindered social maturity, broadly speaking. That includes things like their ability to communicate things with other people, understand the implications of these types of relationships and these relations that they're having with individuals, having the inability to really assess the way that they feel and as far as their emotions are concerned to like some motivated reasoning, if you will, as their brain is currently developing. And this is one of the times that they're like just now kind of getting to experience these emotions. You'll find that there's this crazy power imbalance between these two individuals, and this crazy power imbalance between these two individuals is instantiated on a bunch of things which we see, while age is not like 100% predictive factor, actually has all of the things that we're talking about whenever we're talking about somebody's inability to engage in this type of relationship.
Sure. So you made a few points there. So I'm gonna, if I interject, it's because I want to address one point for you, because you do, and it's not a fault of yours. I'm just saying it's easier for me to go.
No, you can interject in any of my sentences or whatever. Like we're chill. Yeah. I'm assuming we're not having like a super fucking conversation. I'm not I take it that normally whenever you talk to me, you're not talking to me in like the regards of like acting dishonestly or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. Thank you for the disavow. Sorry, I have text to speak. Okay. Thank you.
I didn't even want to know.
Okay, thank you for the $3. Sorry, I have text to speech on. Yeah. So essentially,
you can say whatever you want on the Aiden Project stream for $3.
True. I got to make my bag somehow.
Abuse the fuck out of that.
Literally, you can do $3 to sexually harass me. I allow it. But yeah. So okay. So in regards to like what's like socially acceptable, I guess like I mean what most people consider acceptable. I don't like, I mean, that's like a popularity thing. I don't really know if I care about that so much. In regards to like ability to communicate.
There's a reason why people have this intuition, and it's not just like an intuition that's carried. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but it's not just an intuition that's carried around like most people or something like that. Like that's just a point in favor of the idea that this is not like some absurd stance that I'm taking. This is something that's like majority of people would agree on. It's also the case that whenever you take a look at like psychology papers on the subject matter, they're going to find that there's a substantial age gap. There's all the things that you're talking about whenever you're actually looking into the effects upon these individuals, the reasons why these relationships can't work are all in play.
Yeah, but okay, but the papers you're talking about, don't those refer to like actual relationships as opposed to like temporary flirtation?
Well, I mean, do you think that like temporary flirtation is like completely distinct from like a relationship between individuals? No, it's a sexual relationship. That's what they were engaging in, right?
Yeah, a multi-day like engaging like flirtatious.
Well, it's not a multi-day thing. It's like a span of a month thing, at least a month.
Okay, I don't know how many. I don't have these DMs in front of me. If you have a
Yeah,
copy,
that's okay, right? I'm just assume I'm not lying on that. If you don't want to,
no,
you
I
can
don't. I
scroll
don't
up in our
think you.
DMs. You can see
I
that
don't
the
think you are.
timestamps are at least a month. Yep. So like broadly speaking, these are not like wildly distinct things. If I let me put it this way: if I were to just ask you what is the reason for why you can't fuck somebody who's like 17, what would the problem you would have with some Chud fucking someone who's 17? What would the issue be?
So the issue would be, it would be violating a boundary that by setting it at 18 overall would minimize harm to children. So even if the 17-year-old was more mature than the 18-year-old in question, and as it stands on its own, maybe like would be more understanding of it and better able to consent.
Just a second. Don't think about it as in relation to an 18-year-old of any kind. What is the thing that is morally wrong about this? Because I don't think that you would say to me the thing that is morally wrong about fucking a 17-year-old is that you violate a social boundary.
It depends on the 17-year-old.
Depends on the 17-year-old. You don't think that with a 33-year-old?
Yep, depends on the 17-year-old.
Yeah, so for this particular 17-year-old, let's take a look at this particular 17-year-old. Do you think that if everything remains the same, everything remains constant, do you think that this person, we have reason to believe that this person is one of those 17-year-olds?
If everything remains constant, they're one of those 17-year-olds.
Right, because as far as I'm concerned, Chud Logic believes him to be a virgin. He fetishizes it within the messages.
I'd need to see more.
You need to see more? You want to see the messages where they're calling him a shy virgin over and over again?
Do me a favor? Do you actually have the messages? I was trying to find them.
I do have some of the messages. A lot of them are going to be archived in things like Destiny, streaming about it, and there's like dumb fuck coverage. But if you want, I can pull them up. Like if you don't believe me on this, it's like
no, I know, I do.
I know
it's not that I don't. It's not a matter of not believing you. It's not a matter of not believing you. It's a matter of I just want to see like the specifics of what this person was saying. Is if they're saying like, yeah, actually, I don't know. There's several things I could say.
What are you looking for specifically within these messages? Like I
just want to see
like, oh, okay.
The general level of like understanding this person has over what's happening.
Over what's happening. So, do you think that if somebody just like has it, because in my mind, right, there's a lot of things that you just cannot have an understanding of. Like it doesn't matter. Like it almost like. Yeah, it doesn't matter which 17-year-old is. If somebody's 33 years old, there are just too many things to be accounted for in that type of relation. That's why we're against them, like, categorically.
Right?
There are things like the understanding of your own psychology that have to take place.
You don't think there's a 17-year-old out there that exists that could potentially just like understand the implications and potential
No, I don't
outcomes?
think there's a single 17-year-old I'm okay with fucking somebody who's in their mid-30s through a divorce. No, I don't think there is. Is there a 17-year-old out there that you think you're okay with doing that? For like any given, so for a 33-year-old, there are cases you'd say it's okay to fuck a 17-year-old.
No, I don't think it's. No, wait, hold on. Just to clarify, I don't think it's okay because I think we shouldn't violate the age of consent. The reason I don't think we should violate
in Chud Logic's country, the age of consent is not that of 18 years old.
Well, I think their age of consent is retarded. I think 18 is a good place to set it, and when you're that age,
why is it arbitrarily setting the line at 18? If you ask me, whenever we're talking about the morals of the situation. Okay, no, go on.
So if you look at studies relating to high school, as you go up by year, the like amount of people that have been in relationships and the quantity of relationships they've been in goes up substantially. So by 18, you're exiting high school, and
typically these relationships are with other people of their age, and they're not very serious relationships.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
But at 18, you have greater relational experience.
And at 17, you have greater relational experience than you do at 16. At 16, you have greater relational experience than you do at 15.
Of course, but
okay. And I don't think that those relational experiences are enough to make up for a 15-year age gap whenever one of these people has a marriage underneath their belt, right? Like, there's like a lot of things that go into a relationship. Relationships are hard for people who are of the same age, trying to parse out their feelings between each other, the push and pull that exists within a relationship. Like, you understand why there's this like this wild power imbalance leads to negative psychological outcomes with individuals, right?
Okay, what evidence do you have that this kind of like these types of interactions of like flirtation lead to like negative? I totally agree with you for like
all the data that we have in terms of like relationships between individuals.
Isn't that data related to like when we say relationship? I know
data, I'm sorry. Do you have any data that refers to just specifically flirtation, or because otherwise, what we're going to do is we're going to intuit off of the data that we do have.
No, I don't. But I don't need to prove a negative if we're arguing harm. If we're arguing
You do. That's not how things work within
No, no.
philosophy, or broadly speaking. If I say something
if
that's
you're-
not the case, there's like you could say that there's like some absence of things that obtain on the hypothesis, right? There's like an absence of the evidence it's evidence against the hypothesis, but you can't say like there's just because we don't have a study on this very specific thing, we can't pull from studies that broadly to talk about the psychology of these things. But if you want to talk about the relationships between individuals, we also do have just like psychologist testimony on these types of things. If you want to look at that.
Okay, do you not think there's like an inherent difference between like when we say relationship, I agree, like technically this is a relationship, just like me talking to you right now is a relationship in the form of like acquaintanceship, friendship, whatever. But like when we talk about relationships in the romantic context, we're talking about a form of commitment. We're talking about the intertwining of lives.
We're not
talking about
all of those things, but there's to some degree they're intertwined.
So the outcome. So there's a difference. So there is the power dynamic plays way more relevance in that than it would in like a month-long like flirtatious exchange over Discord.
So let's think about it this way, okay? So provided that it was just the case that like some individual engaged with a child on grounds that they were like it was just flirtatious conversations or something like that, do you think that'd be permissible, or do you think those like the same types of boundaries have to be put in place?
How old?
Well, how old do you think it would be permissible for someone who's 33 years old? Like, how young do you think you can go?
I think you should 18. I think you should anything about 18 or over.
18, right? Between a 17-year-old who's like a 17 and 8-month-old and an 18-year-old, do you think that there's this large cognitive difference that exists between these two?
No, it's not about a cognitive difference, though. I just don't think we should skirt the age of consent.
The only issue you would have with these given interactions is just violation of a social boundary, which I would say is false. I think the first thing that comes to mind whenever we think about what's wrong about like having relations with a kid in this type of way is the effects on that of a child.
Okay, sure.
I think that's like primary thing that's morally wrong. I think that's where the disgust factor comes from, and I think that the only way we'd ever pivot off onto something like the breaking of a social rule is if we liked the person.
Okay, I would hold this like same standard for any adult that believed they were having a flirtatious relationship with an 18-year-old. I'm against the position people say that anything over 18 is fine. I agree that 18-year-olds are inexperienced and can easily be manipulated, taken advantage of, and have dynamics where they're being exploited. For a good example, like Boogie 2988 and his girlfriend. I think she is inexperienced, looking for a surrogate father figure, and he's fulfilling that role in her life for the sole purpose of garnering sex. And I don't think that's what she thinks she's looking for in regard. Like I think he is using his. I think he is using. Like when you talk about being married, being old, whatever, my question would be, okay, there are discrepancies between these two age gaps. How does this dynamic, how does this gap bear relevance to the nature of the interaction?
Yeah,
and Boogie's maturity in this case bears relevance to the fact that she's looking for a surrogate father figure, and he's using his maturity and like knowledge to try and fulfill that role to garner sex out of her. I don't see any, like based on the DMs I've seen, and I don't know if you. Sorry.
Yeah, Sorry, no, I was going to go on to talk about, but it's all good.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I haven't seen anything in these DMs that would show like he was using like any aspect of like the power dynamic or like maturity gap to solicit this person to do something she reasonably couldn't consent to.
Yeah, so I understand the sentiment, but this is what you have to understand, like that they reasonably couldn't consent to. I don't think they can consent whenever such a power gap exists, and there's like a couple of reasons for something like that. One thing is like you don't have to directly violate the boundary. That's like one of the reasons why these types of relationships are so bad, right? There's like there's no way to like account for this type of discrepancy. Whenever you're engaging with somebody who is of that age, of that much of a junior to you, 15 years, and it's also the case that they're like a fan in your Discord server, and it's also the case they've never had a relationship before, and it's also the case that all of these things are instantiated. What happens is there are a lot of places where they just might be willing to be conforming towards things that they generally wouldn't be okay with, or they're not able to identify the faults of the individual within the given relationship, or they're not able to actually communicate those faults to the degree of which it's actually capable of having a productive and healthy relationship. And that's why you see it be the case whenever we take a look at the outcome data of these types of things, why it's so bad on people. Right, like I can take you down like a few things. I guess like what are the like whenever you put it at 18 years old, and that's like the line you want to draw. Why is like they're the line that we want to draw?
There's the line because I think generally around that age, your general 18-year-old is going to have enough of an understanding of like the nature of sexual and romantic relationships where they can consent.
There you go.
I think.
Yeah,
I think that there are some 17-year-olds where that would be true as well. But the lower you go, the less likely it is. We have to draw hard lines because the courts can't assess every individual case. So we have to set a boundary somewhere to minimize potential harm. And that is a good boundary to set. And skirting it for the sake of temporary pleasure, I think, is a bad thing. So I think you should stick to fucking 18 and over.
I understand what you're talking about, and I agree to some extent. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. But yeah, like they don't have the experience with these types of relationships. As I was saying, they're not like able to really understand what's going on in the relationship in like a greater context. So whenever we're talking about this individual, Chud Logic believed to have had no sexual experience whatsoever. Right? There's an 18-year-old with no sexual experience whatsoever, and there's one of these people who have had many relationships in the past and is going to proceed with them, by which like they would proceed with many other types of relationships.
Well, didn't she just like,
say that's the issue? You can't like make the accounting for.
No, I agree. She had no like. I agree she was a virgin, but did she say she had never been in any sort of relationship? Was she not familiar with like flirting?
Well, no, it's sexual relationship, right?
Yeah, okay, but there's a
like they call them a shy virgin specifically. Like they're not like, you understand? Like in these messages, they're very, very, very recluse.
So she hasn't engaged before in the act of sex, but there's nothing to suggest she hasn't engaged in flirtation before.
So let's think about it this way, Aiden. There is no evidence to believe it's the case that this person is a particularly mature individual for their age, right? There's evidence to believe that they're not. And even without that evidence, when we take a look at the actual outcome data of these types of things, what is a significant age gap whenever we're talking in terms of a relationship and the effects on individuals, we're seeing that around like, I think maximum acceptability tends to be about 10-year age gap between individuals. Right, broadly speaking, when we take a look at papers on psychology and relationships.
In what's like socially acceptable.
No, not like what's like socially acceptable. Like what is like a really significant age gap? That's like seen to be a significant age gap, a significant difference between the two that's meaningful in the relationship. Yeah,
can
sure.
You link me one of these papers? Can you? Yeah, sure. That would be good because I want to see what these papers are like referring to.
Yeah, sure. I look right there. I'm citing page 8.
Hold on, let me pull you back up for the stream. I accidentally turned it off. All right. Hold on. Fuck. Dude, best streamer ever, guys. Here we go. Cool. Oh, just send me an IP grabber. You said page 8?
Yeah, absolutely.
8. Additionally, the cutoff.
So, specific quote that I'm taking, it is proposed that an age difference between more than 10 years is likely to carry some meaning to partners in any relationship, regardless of the actual age of the individuals involved. Earlier on that page, it says, scroll through, it's basically at the top of the page. A 5-year gap likely means little to a younger partner who is 50 years old. In contrast, however, a 5-year difference likely means much more whenever the younger party is only 16 or 17 years old, which meets the age of consent in most Western countries, but just barely. So it's instantiating that the age gap that is significant here, right? Like a 10-year age gap is significant for just about any type of relations for people who are of any age, right? It's going to be somewhat significant, right? Maybe not like this crazy meaningful thing, but specifically in the cases of those who are of younger age, because you see the way that development actually happens in not only the brain, but also just like broadly speaking, the types of things you're allowed to do within society, right? The things that you are allowed to do, the ways that you are allowed to mature, and the way that you are like able to live your life and mature in such a way. It makes it more significant whenever we're talking about somebody who is of younger age, right? And just like taking a look at because I promise you this is like, I wouldn't come out and say something like this if I hadn't taken a look at a lot of things. Whenever I'm trying to figure out my opinion on these things, I like to ask myself why I believe things. Like there is very, very, very little evidence for the contrary. It's something that's like held to be true by most any type of counselors, quotes who I look at, and held to be true by just about any type of study where you look at.
Sure, I agree like an age gap. Okay, so but I'd also agree that like an age gap between what would be a good example? Like somebody who's like in their early 20s versus somebody who's in their like early 30s would be more significant than an age gap between somebody who's in their early 30s and somebody who's in their early 40s. So
yeah, exactly. That's what the paper's saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So this paper seems to be claiming that there's a significance and a difference between the two age gaps, which isn't up for debate. I've never disagreed. There's a significant difference between these two. What I'm essentially asking for me to like take your position is that the discrepancy here is to such an extent for an 18-year-old, what he believed at the time, if I'm like assessing his like moral culpability, the discrepancy exists to such an extent where either the 18-year-old is there's more. You talk about expect utility. There's likely to be like a negative outcome to the nature of their relationship.
Yeah.
They're unable to understand that negative outcome might occur, or the implications of such a dynamic. Therefore, like they probably can't consent to it, or that he is exploiting the dynamic between the two in some sense to like take advantage of her for the sake of garnering personal pleasure.
So, like, again, what exactly are you looking for?
I guess I'm looking for example, what would be a good example? Harvey Weinstein. This is a good one. These are girls who they're like girls who he's an ugly fuck. Nobody would fuck him. They have a yearning to like make it in the industry.
Sorry.
So the power dynamic. So the power dynamic that exists between the two is like his financial status and status in the industry, and they're like up and coming. And they don't have a lot of influence in the industry. So that's the power dynamic.
So this individual does not have a lot of...
Let me finish. I just got to finish. So Harvey Weinstein exploits this dynamic by essentially saying this thing that you want due to our like mutual discrepancy, this thing I can give you that you don't have that you want due to our power, I'll give it to you if you have sex with me. So he's taking the dynamic between the two. He's utilizing the power dynamic for the sake of garnering sex and getting them to consent to something they wouldn't have otherwise consented to. With like a child... With a child, they can't consent at all because they don't understand the implications of they don't understand the implications of it.
Yeah, sure.
I think
which specific, so the implications that I'm talking about, right, broadly whenever I'm speaking on something like this, is the idea of where that power dynamic exists. Like the very core fundamentals of the power dynamic, because it's very hard to understand what you don't understand about relationships. You don't have a knowingness of your knowledge gaps, if that makes sense. So whenever we're talking about this individual and whether they're able to fully understand the power dynamic that takes place here, a lot of things still remain true, right? You have like Chud Logic, who is a content creator that they specifically met through his Discord server. They're a fan of this content creator. If I'm not mistaken, they specifically said they wanted attention from Chud Logic. They very clearly did whenever you're looking at the actual messages in between the two. And whenever we're talking about the actual discrepancies between the two's ability to handle the relationship, whenever you're looking at the past relationship experience of the individuals, the age gap that exists as it already is, whether you're looking at the ability to communicate from the individuals or their like emotional development, all of these things seem to like not point in favor of Chud Logic engaging in a moral action.
Hold on. I gotta get these fucking DMs in front of me, dude. Destiny Chud Logic. I'm like debating blind here. I should have got this.
Dog, you were the one who like surprise debated me. You were like, "Do you want to debate in 5 minutes?"
You're saying you want to talk. I was live. I'm like ADHD as fuck. I would not have like. I remembered it. So I'm like.
If you want, we can like push it off. I don't want to like ambush you with a bunch of shit.
No, you're not.
I'll send you my like research notes if you really want it.
No, you're not. I don't need your notes. You're not ambushing me at all. I just would prefer to have the DMs up here to like assess what was like specifically going on. Hold on. Got him. All right. Cool. Oh, where is it? Fuck. Hold on. God, my fucking content slaves are useless. You guys didn't send me the DMs. What am I paying you for?
I'll send
you
I'm
not.
Link to the stream bot if you want to take a look at it. You can scroll through some of this. I don't know if I don't believe the Twitter thread's still up. I couldn't find the original Twitter thread.
Okay, thanks. I thought Diorio sent me the fucking messages he sent. Okay, this is retarded. Okay, so we're talking about the Haley bug person. This wasn't the 30-year-old that claimed she got groomed. All right. So these are
According to them, this also occurred over many months, not just like a month or whatever. So like as far as I'm concerned, these are relations between the two. Like I don't any reasonable person would interpret that as that.
I mean,
they have flirtatious conversations.
I think it was over a month.
Things that are not flirtatious. Yeah, it's over a month. Many months would be over a month.
Okay. So over. I thought when you said over a month,
I'm saying that I'm looking at their Twitter thread right now. And it's at least the span of a month due to the messages that I just taken a look at as far as the timestamping, which is concerned of them. Whenever you take a look at the Twitter thread, they said over many months.
Did you link me the Twitter thread?
I don't think the Twitter thread is the original Twitter thread is still up, as I said earlier. But I
what
did
are you
link
looking at right now?
VOD specifically. The VOD from Destiny where he covers them live.
Got it. No, got it. I got that up. All right, cool. All right. Many months. All right. So we've got here April 1st, April 19th, April 5th, March 29th, April 5th, March 31st. Okay, so this seems to go over, it seems to be like about the length of a month.
Yeah, that's why I was able to confirm at least a month. What I'm saying is they testify to it being more than a month. As far as I'm concerned, if you're engaging with somebody with flirtatious conversations, as well as conversations about their personal life and what they're like doing, that you're in relations with them. Right, by any reasonable person's
but wasn't he
interpretation,
also-
you can have like a month-long relations with somebody.
Wait, you don't think you don't think there's like people that like I know people that like horny DM multiple girls on Snap. They don't consider themselves in relationships with. They're just trying to get like, they're just trying
You're
to
not in like a
fucking
committed relationship with them. I think they're using relationship in a different sense, but no,
Yeah,
they are in
it's
like
committed.
a relationship in the sense that is like relevant here.
They're okay. Yeah, technically, yes. This is a relationship. Isn't a relationship
Well, it's
just
like a
an
sexual relationship, right? They would be in sexual relationships with many of those guys. If you like started like flirtatiously, like sexting them and shit like that.
Yeah, so
like,
they're in a
you'd be
relationship where they're
sexual
engaging in
relations with those
flirtatious
people.
conversations with
In the
somebody
same way
over the
that like
span
I'm
of a month.
not okay with like saying that somebody is like engaging in relations with an individual if they're just like flirting.
Sure,
with
but
them.
typically when we're talking about like okay, you said sexual. Typically, like when I think of
Well, yeah,
like
we're
relationship in
talking
this
about
context,
sexual
we're talking about like a romantic
relationships.
relationship
Sexual
where
and romantic,
two people's where two people's lives are like significantly intertwined in some way, in which I
Well,
think
they don't
like
have to be significantly intertwined in some way.
But that's generally what I think people like think
Do you
of
think
when you're
Clancy and I were in a relationship?
Do I think you were in a? Did you got were? I don't know like the full nature of it.
Yeah, you don't know the full nature of it. If somebody like comes out and visits me and I like talk to them as like somebody who's like of close proximity to me, like as far as trust is concerned, if I
Did they
talk
call
to
you
them,
their boyfriend? And
yeah, like that's a committed relationship. Before that,
so you were in a committed relationship with Clancy.
yeah, but before that, our lives were never significantly intertwined in that sense.
So what happened before that? Were you just sexting?
Like, yeah, there was like a hookup thing. Yeah. It was
Okay,
a hookup
so it was
thing
like a
where you like had conversations with the individual, and still at that point in time, I would say there was a power dynamic in play that I was trying to be cognizant of.
So it was okay. So that's like I consider that when how I use relationship.
Like in the same
and you're
way,
probably
like
formally right.
Yeah.
How I use relationship, but you're probably formally right. That's like a pre-relationship where you're like testing the waters, flirting with them, and then it eventually becomes something committed.
Yeah, and as
Sure.
you're testing the waters and flirting with them, it's really hard to test the waters with somebody who's not able to assert themselves in the way that you need to have them doing. Right,
Sure, but I
like this
don't-
Chud Logic's a content creator they look up to, right? Like that's not on its own enough to like substantiate a power dynamic that's too great to like overcome with just like paying attention to what you're doing or something
Sure,
like
but
that. There are a lot of things at play here. There are many things at play here which make this feel morally unacceptable. That's
What
why
do you think
people
about
have
what do
the
you think about
intuition.
what do you think about like PewDiePie and Marzia?
I'm not sure about their relationship. I know very little about PewDiePie.
Okay, so I think Marzia, I don't remember how old she was. I think she was like in her 20s maybe. Somebody can correct me on this if I'm wrong. She was a huge fan of his. I think she was like in his fan emails. They ended up engaging in a relationship together, and now they're married. Just to be clarify here, Chud was 100 Chud was like 100 viewer Andy at that point. But no, I agree. She's a fan, right? I think like you're
I think
typically
100
though
viewers is significant. Whenever you're talking about a live stream, that's pretty significant.
to be like
fairly
totally
large, yeah.
but to be like totally enamored to the point where you're like gonna be willing to entertain their like
if you're
flirtatious
pretty young,
advances.
like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. If somebody like that starts interacting with you, like, yeah, if you're in their Discord server already, you're enough of a fan of them to be in their Discord server.
Listen, it's not working for me. It's not working for me. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm kidding.
You're just not going young enough. You're not
Yeah.
going young enough. You're not doing the YouTuber thing yet. You got to get on it.
Look, if
It's
her
all
age
the
is on
rage
clock-
nowadays. Have you seen the Destiny stuff?
Yeah, if her age is on the clock, Bunk's
Yeah.
only saying that's a 10 view. Okay, well he just came back.
Oh no.
And
Oh,
to be
no.
fair, you did have like 60 viewers, right? So
Yeah, I did have like I have a live stream that I didn't announce that I was doing out of nowhere with no pop up at a random time when I'm doing like you know what I mean? It's like fucking who cares? Who cares? I make the money kind of stays the same either way, right? I'm just fucking I want to be live to have the VOD on my end.
sure. So we know she looks up to him or idolizes him in some way. What I would need to see in these messages is him utilizing that to like get her to consent to the flirtatious
Do you
exchanges.
have to directly say something in order for that to be a factor in that type of relationship? Or do you think that somebody might just consent to things they're not otherwise like okay with for the sake of appealing to that individual? And as far as it seems like they like kind of bend over.
I don't think you
backwards
need
to some
to. I don't
degree.
think you need to. But when I'm assessing like the moral culpability of like the person of the of Chud
and that's not the,
in this
that's
circumstance.
not the biggest thing that's at play here, right? There are other things which are also at play, like the seniority of the individual is at play as well. Like there's the
Sure, so
tendency
then
if
we
you're
can
a younger
argue that.
individual who's had less relationships, you're more likely to default to that individual as far
This
as
is
like,
the
what's normal in a relationship, what like the tendencies for them to interact with you and to be like your kind of baseline whenever you're trying to assess the relationship. You just don't have the perspective to do so, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's like the same reason I have a problem
the,
with somebody who's like significantly older fucking around with somebody who's like 17 years old. Right?
Yeah,
The way that I would
saying,
like have the laws be different is like a completely different story. We can have a conversation about that if you really want to, but like
yeah, we're
the
saying
moral
so like Chud
facts about the situation kind of remain pretty similar.
Yeah, so when we're saying something like Chud is like, I don't know if you said Chud is disgusting or whatever. Somebody were making claims about Chud. So for like talking about like his moral culpability here, of course, whether or not of course, like whether or not he's exploiting that is relevant to his moral culpability. But
yeah, I don't think that he directly, like, again, what I'm saying is this is one thing which stacks on top of many other things which are all at play within the relationship.
Sure, so can I give you a hypothetical?
Like, these are many things which all result in a relationship, which is disgusting, morally.
So do you think? And I know you said so. I know you're going to say there's other factors, so then I'd prefer to stick to those factors. But let's say, for example,
it's composite.
Okay. So let's say for example, there's like a fan, an inexperienced fan of like a bigger YouTube, like just in general, doesn't matter of the age, and they are totally enamored, obsessed with this guy, and he's sexually into her, and they start DMing and flirting. Would that just be like if he is not, should he just not continue talking to them by virtue of the fact that he's a fan and he has no way of knowing if the fact that this person is a fan of his is like playing into their ability to like consent?
I don't think that you should just like completely write it off if that's what you're asking. No, there's other things, but like what I would say is like, yeah, you'd have to be a little bit more careful. You have
how would you tell?
How would you tell? Well, you wouldn't be able to like exactly tell, and that's kind of the issue, right? The issue is like with these types of things, you can't exactly tell. You can't read into somebody's mind or something like that.
So why
I
not
didn't say
write
that
it off?
either. Just a second. I'm trying to answer your question. Just a second. So the problem is that you can't just know indefinitely into like somebody's mind. You can't like mind read from them. What you can do is you can take their certain actions within the relationship to try and make the relationship more comfortable for them. So like imagine, for example, you were engaging with somebody and like that you had like, say, I'm not sure, say you've had sexual experiences in the past, right?
I have not.
Okay. Maybe that's the disconnect here. Okay. So let's just say that like if so I, as somebody who's been in a few relationships in the past, I have some experience when it comes to relationships, not the most experienced guy in the world, a little bit of a retard with it, but if I was engaging with somebody who had never been in a relationship before in their entire life, then in that case, I would be a little bit more careful whenever I'm pushing certain boundaries, right? I was like, by pushing boundaries, I mean like trying to progress the relationship in certain ways, right? If somebody had never had sex before in their entire life, I'd be a little bit more cautious whenever I'm initiating a sexual interaction with them than if I was interacting with somebody who had done it many times in the past. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yes, sure, but virginity.
And at some point, there are so many of these factors that play in where you're not really able to compensate for such a thing, right? There are like many things which play into the factors of a relationship. As I said, relationships are hard for individuals who are of the same age, where these dynamics don't exist, right? For an individual like Chud Logic, in this case, there are just too many factors to be accounting for, and that's why you'd see them come out with some shit on Twitter saying that they were uncomfortable afterwards.
Sure, this person's
right? They're not going to
though,
indicate to it earlier on. Because they're just like they're not cognizant enough of it. They don't know their psychology well enough. They don't know relationships well enough to have that kind of understanding.
Sure. Virginity is relevant though. Hold on, give me 1 sec. Gotta give me a sec here.
You're all good.
Hold on.
Yeah.
1 sec. I'll be right back. Hold on. Wait, hold on.
Damn it. I don't get to run the Aiden Project's live stream. This is some bullshit. What's up, champ? I'm talking about sexual relationships with somebody who's never had one before. This shit fucking rocks. Absolutely. I'm gonna have a banger time with this one. I do genuinely hope at like some point Aiden like understands that like there's an overwhelming psychological consensus on this type of thing, and while like relationships aren't like fully determined by these age discrepancies, especially in individuals who are older, like there are other things which we have to track for as far as the expected outcomes of a relationship, and the expected outcomes of the relationship are tracked by a few different variables which are just like all not seen in the individual that we're talking about. What's up, maggot? How are you? How is everyone in chat? Surprise live stream. Chud round 3. Oh my fucking god. I do eventually just want to get the fuck off this subject matter, because low key it's repetitive as fuck for me to argue about. It's like if I only debated one political topic. Like at some point you're like, okay, I know how the argument's gonna go. I know what they're gonna say. I've thought about what they're gonna say more than they've thought about what they're gonna say next. And I understand that, right? And Aiden's trying to get my perspective on it, and I appreciate the fuck out of Aiden for that. It's not an Aiden problem. It's a debate problem. It's a debate pedophile problem. Is truly what it is.
Yo, sorry about my mom just showed up. She's
epic.
Absolutely. She lives in New York. Okay, this is bizarre. Hold on.
Hold up. What the fuck is my... Sorry, my buddy just called me 3 times in a row.
Give me a sec.
3 times in a motherfucking row. Look at this motherfucker.
Hold on.
Oh, he called me an hour ago twice, actually. No, I'm just an asshole. I'm just a piece of shit. I might have to get going soon. It seems like it's something that's important.
Oh, okay. I'm just at a loss for words right now. Sorry. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't know. She was on a flight somewhere, got grounded in LA, and apparently I missed her text.
Fuck. Wait, do you have to dip? Or she like Ubered to you or whatever?
Yeah, she showed up. It was.
Oh, so she's just at your house right now?
No. Where was I saying?
Okay.
She's in the area. I'm gonna see her in an hour.
Gotcha.
All right. So where were we?
You hear that, chat? We're both busy people with real social lives.
Yeah, very big social life with my mom.
I think that's big. I think you need to give yourself a pat on the back sometimes.
Yeah, I love.
I ain't got a social life with my mom.
Based? All right, where were we here?
I don't remember exactly where we left off on. I was going somewhere down the lines of like not being able to compensate for the discrepancies between the two individuals in the relationship, because one of these individuals is very unlikely to be able to actually like parse out the issues that they have with the relationship and communicate their feelings towards it. Yeah, like a lot of it's going to be revolving around like the very strongly when it comes to an age factor, kind of defaulting to the individual as like a form of
So what could they have communicated in regards to this dynamic? What could they have communicated here that you feel like
I don't think that they could have. I don't think that they could have communicated out the power dynamic is what I'm saying. I'm saying that's why it's like a morally important relationship. In the same way you can't communicate out a power dynamic between like a 15-year-old and a 40-year-old. Right, like as you like have these large age gaps, is just like, or like a 20-year-old and like a 15-year-old is probably like you probably can communicate out that dynamic.
Yeah, so pretend for a minute like this is a 30-year-old. What are they gonna have here? What would they be able to communicate here?
They're gonna have a. Oh yeah, no, sorry, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, what are they gonna be able to communicate here that the 18-year-old wouldn't be able to?
Yeah, so they're gonna have a better understanding of their psychology as it pertains to their own emotions, right? Broadly speaking, people are not gonna be able to, like, just as like an example, broadly speaking, people aren't even able to understand they have like most mental disorders you don't understand until you're like at least around 19 years old. For personality disorders, it's around somewhere around 25. As far as it concerns to the normalities of a relationship, they're not gonna be able to understand the way that this is like not not normal in concerns to like the other ways they've interacted with people, or they won't be able to understand which parts of a relationship have a negative effect on their psychology to the same degree. Whenever they're talking about like parsing out individuals like motivated reasoning, we're talking about the individual's ability to like understand the way that their feelings affect their abilities to reason about the ways that they see individuals within their head. And you're talking about things like broadly speaking, their ability to like in comfortability with laying down sexual boundaries with individuals, laying down their needs and wants as it concerns to a relationship like this, and making sure that that relationship is healthy for both individuals. Right? They're all things you have a better understanding of as you're older and you had more relationships. Right? Like individuals who have just been in relationships in the past, like you can identify that. You can identify that within yourself. At least I hope. I hope that you're like maturing through your relationships. But yeah.
Yeah, so sure, you'll always throughout life, your understanding will always be better. I guess what I was just trying to figure out was like how this person's lack of an understanding would be so substantial they couldn't consent to the nature of the interaction. But I guess my question now would be,
did that not answer it? I feel like that did answer it.
Yeah. My question now would be,
Okay.
let pretend Chud is 18 years old for here for a minute, and nothing changes about these DMs. He's 18 years old. What would be the fundamental difference
What
in
would be
like
the fundamental difference if Chud
in the
was just
outcome? This
18 years old? I think that
yeah,
the
in the
individual,
outcome.
yeah, the individual would be less likely to defer to Chud logic as it concerns to things like a relationship. They'd be less likely to defer to things like their reasoning capacity. And broadly speaking, I think the relationship would be less serious. It would progress in a much more cautious manner between both individuals. They had similar relationship experience. I think that I'm sorry. You want to interject?
Yeah, yeah. Were they asking, like, when you say defer to Chud about a relationship? Were they asking him questions about like
Well,
how
no.
relationships work?
You don't have to ask something directly to be deferring to somebody. Right? Like I know I've had relationships in the past where somebody just has more relationship experience than I do, and I defer to them as for like what's normal in a relationship or what's like the types of ways like flirtation occurs, the ways that like relationship boundaries progress and whatnot.
But it doesn't seem like there's any deferring like when you say you defer to them.
Deferring can happen internally. You understand? Like it does happen internally. Individuals who are younger, they're going to be deferring to people who are older than them.
So, okay, so
Partly.
what you're
Like
saying
you have an understanding. Like just this is a second. Like if you are a younger individual who's engaging in a relationship, right? You understand to some degree that this other individual in the relationship is going to have a more developed brain and a better understanding of all of these things, which all factor into the ability for a relationship to succeed. Like all the other things that I had previously mentioned.
Okay, so pretend. Okay, okay.
These are like just the same issues you have with any large age gap as it pertains to like somebody who's like has very little social experience. When we're
Yeah,
talking about
they're
these
looking for
things.
them to lead the way, looking to them for guidance. It seems but when I like it seems
Yeah,
like
to lead
with,
the way
with
of the relationship.
sure,
Partly, right?
but
That
it seems
Chud logic is kind of leading the sexual interactions. Would you
sure, but
agree?
couldn't yeah, sure, but
Okay.
couldn't the argument be made for anybody who's sexually inexperienced of like any age? Couldn't I then make that argument that we just shouldn't fuck virgins? But then actually nobody would have sex. Like, couldn't I then make the like
No,
what would
as I
it,
said, there are
what,
many things which all play a factor into their ability to have this type of relationship. And whenever you are engaging that type of relationship with somebody with more experience, you are more cautious, just as it is. You because you care about the person. You don't want to see that person hurt.
Okay, so let's say I'm an 18-year-old because this will probably address some of the every factor except the age, and the age here it seems like we're diverting to like you would defer to this person to lead the way for a relationship. But wait, hold on. I just want to say, let's pretend I'm an 18-year-old, huge fan base. I fucked my way all through high school, fucked my way through middle school. I'm Mr. Sex. I know everything about sex. I've been in 800 relationships. I know everything about relationships.
I believe it.
I'm going and meeting an 18-year-old. She's a total virgin. She's a fan of my channel. What fundamentally changes about the nature of the interaction here?
What fundamentally changed? I mean, if you're an 18, you understand if you're an 18-year-old, your psychology is much different. Like we could just like point to things like the development of the prefrontal cortex if we really want to get like super fundamental with it. If you're looking for something like that, or you can look at the development of the prefrontal cortex. You can look at the development of somebody who has concerns to their ability to understand their emotions, communicate them. Like I don't know.
Of course, 25.
As you
I know.
exist in the real world and you have more power and more influence. Like we let you make more decisions for a reason, right? Like
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
No, I'm saying no. So what, like in this circumstance, right? I know like the age, the
Yeah, those are the
fucking
things that change. Those are the relevant things that change.
develops
about
at
the dynamic.
25, but why? Okay. But then why would you be able to consent? Why would the 18-year-old virgin be able to consent to like 18-year-old Mr. Sex with a big fan base?
Because they are able to understand, hopefully, if both individuals are engaging about the relationship in a positive way, that this person does not have all of these things leading up to them being like somebody who's going to be the more experienced with these types of relationships. They have a larger brain development. They're better at parsing out their motivated reasoning as it concerns to their emotions. They're better at communicating their emotions whenever it comes to like.
No, I'm
just
saying both are
broadly
18.
Speaking, their ability to reason. Yeah,
I'm saying both are 18.
Present. These are things that are not present.
Wait, why? Yeah, so why? No, but why would But I'm saying with the 18-year-old Mr. Sex,
There's some degree there is a power dynamic there.
Would
But that power
18-year-old
dynamic can
Mr. Sex be a
compensated for
predator?
to some degree. There's like a gradient as it concerns to these things. This is far past the gradient. This is like far past the area where you have
Okay.
that like arguable gradient.
Okay, but would 18-year-old Mr. Sex be a predator?
Will they be a predator? Not necessarily, no. If they like sort of
Because-
pushing those types of boundaries with like if they suck like imagine this they like suck out people who were specifically inexperienced with the relationships and engaged in ways that they thought were like incredibly aggressive with pushing boundaries or something like that. Like yeah,
And make
that
it
would be
seem
a
all-
bad thing to do. That'd be a bad thing to do. It'd be morally wrong.
But let's say they're Chud. Let's say all the DMs are identical in Chud's position. Would there be anything wrong with that?
If all of the
Like-
DMs are whether all the DMs are identical or not doesn't have anything to do with like the psychology of the individual. You understand there's like there's like psychological aspect of this. The way that the DMs play out are in relation to the individual psychology. Right,
The
it's
way,
in
okay,
relation to the way that they're thinking about the relationship. It's in relation to the way that
when
they
you say the
think about
individual,
the.
the recipient, or like the like Haley, the 18 or the 18-year-old Mr. Sex, like which individual are you referring to here?
So on both people's ends, there's an existent dynamic between the two. You understand? Like, let's just, for example, imagine somebody like Chud Logic, and imagine if they like tried to compensate for all of these things. At that point, you're nearly trying to think for your partner, which is an incredibly, incredibly large emotional toll to put onto somebody, and not something that they're really capable of doing.
Okay. So
You're not able
okay.
to think through somebody else's psychology and what works for them in relationships and like read their mind or something like that. There's a dynamic, there's a certain degree to which dynamics are okay between individuals. Like in most relationships, in every single relationship, I say there exists some power dynamic, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Whenever it becomes to the point where somebody is going to be really incapable of trying to assert these types of boundaries, like yeah, that's where you have these types of issues arising.
But any psychological factor you mentioned, like playing relevance to this, I feel like would be just as applicable for somebody who's like just inexperienced with sex or relations in general. Like I feel like this
the development of somebody's like just the existence as a human being, like period, right? Their ability to exist over a longer period of time allows you to introspect. Do you understand that? Like just
yes,
at a very base level, we're gonna get like really fundamental with it. Okay, so you're able to introspect into yourself. You're able to take a look at the way that you've interacted with things in the past, and you're able to see how your psychology changes over a longer period of time. And specifically, when we're talking about somebody who is 18 years old, they are just now having this like pretty large leap. They're just now getting out of puberty, right? They're very, very, very much so for the first time in their entire fucking life. They're not a goddamn
18
retard.
as a girl.
They're not a fucking idiot.
Are they just getting out of puberty at 18 as a girl? I don't think that's true.
Around, yeah. What do you think the latest stages of puberty are?
Okay. The like for late
like real
bloomers.
Shit.
Don't women
like for a
start
girl,
going through?
let's just say, where do you think on average women end puberty? At this point I'll just grant it to you. Whatever you want to say, put it wherever the fuck you think is reasonable.
I was gonna say
I'll
like,
grant it, and you'll see exactly where my argument is.
Well, I was gonna say it probably ends at 15, but I'm looking it up. It says 14. Generally around 14.
So if it generally ends around
that's 4
14,
years. That's not just going through puberty.
They have 4 years of which they are able to experience themselves as an individual. You understand?
Yeah, that's pretty
4 years are
substantial.
within fucking high school. It's not within the outside world where they're able to make all of these own decisions for themselves. They can't even determine where they're allowed to be. And from given points of the day, they're demanded to be in a specific building at a specific time. They're told where to go and what to do. As we're concerning to somebody understanding their psychology, then being able to act and interact with the world as an adult, like a full-grown adult, for
that's not
15 years, that person's going to have a far, far, far greater understanding of the psychology. There's the difference that exists between these two individuals.
When you were in high
school,
yeah, when you were in high school, you didn't have like freedom of movement. You couldn't like if you were like dating a chick, you couldn't sneak out to her house and go fuck.
You have some freedom of movement,
sure.
During the school day
itself.
No, I'm sorry, the state
you could ditch
demands
school
that you were there.
Yeah, okay, sure, but
if
like
you
going
ditch
to
school too much, they eventually come and get you.
Yeah, truancy. Well, actually, that's not even true. At 16, you could drop out. But
yeah, with your parents' consent.
Well, yeah, okay. So
yeah,
let's
so
say
your parents have to consent. There you go. That is my point.
No, you could get emancipated. No, you could get emancipated.
You can get emancipated in some states.
Yeah, and you don't need a parent's consent to get emancipated and then drop out of school.
In some states, you are going to have to go through a prolonged legal process of which a judge is going to be able to determine whether you actually are able to be emancipated. It's not something you can do on your own. It's not autonomy that's given to you.
You can start the request
Other
on your
individuals,
own,
adults, yeah, you can start the request, and then an adult, somebody who has better understandings of the world, has to sign off on that.
Well, it's a legal decision, so judges sign off on legal decisions, even if you are already an adult.
Well,
so any legal decision is signed off on by a judge.
You're already an adult whenever you reach 18 years of age, right? A judge doesn't have to sign off on that.
Well, yeah, but any legal ruling after the age of 18 needs to be signed off on by a judge.
Surely at some point in this conversation, you're like understanding where the argument is. You understand like part of the argument? These individuals are not given these social freedoms. They're not getting these social freedoms for a reason, and them not having these social freedoms, not having the ability to interact with the world like this is very important, especially whenever one of these individuals has many relationships, has gone through a fucking marriage and divorce.
Okay.
Like that's bad. Like internally, some part of it has to feel bad.
Okay. When you say like
level with me, like real shit. Just like think about it.
No, I'd argue. Okay, if they were dating, yeah, I would probably be more sympathetic to your position. I think a temporary flirtatious exchange.
What's fundamentally different between these two things? Like, because it's a temporary flirtatious exchange as it concerns to like a relationship which was developing.
So typically, when you're dating, and this is by the way, we could talk about e-dating. Your average relationship occurs in person, though, doesn't it? typically when we're
sure.
talking, typically when we're talking about
It
dating,
might not be true anymore, actually. We might be cucked. We might be like owned as a society, but I hope.
I know it's more significant, but I still don't think it's like the majority. But typically when we're talking about dating, where the influence each other has on like their day-to-day lives is like much more significant. The advice and knowledge, like did Chud even know this person's full name? Like you could,
Like
if you're like interacting with the family, you could say, oh, your family's toxic. Get away from your family.
That'd be a point I'd give against Chud.
Isolate
knows very
them.
little about this individual, and yet there's a 15-year age gap, and there's all these things playing as a role.
Well, yeah, but
you're very
I'm
little
saying-
able to you're very, very, very limited in your ability to compensate for this type of power dynamic.
But with the
very
power
little understanding
dynamic-
of this individual.
But with the power dynamic you're talking about, with like a committed IRL like dating relationship, the 33-year-old would be able to exert that dynamic in such a way where they could bend the 18-year-old to their will in a way that just like wouldn't, I feel like wouldn't be present.
They
to
can do
like,
things to intentionally like use that power dynamic, but as it exists in the first place, right? Surely you would understand that like you can't say it's the case that like an individual who is like fucking, I don't know, like 25 can interact with a 15-year-old so long as they don't intentionally assert that power dynamic. They don't intentionally use it.
no,
Right?
but I
Like,
don't think
to some degree it already exists. It exists
I don't
in the
think a
mind of the individual
15-year-old
who's younger. There's a reason this person is like that. This person very well could, on average, would be in high school still.
I don't think a 15-year-old, I don't think the vast majority, I'd say like 99% of 15-year-olds understand like the meaning, nature, or potential negative outcomes of a relationship, sex, romantic, whatever, and therefore cannot consent to it.
I think you fucking barely understand that. And by comparison to somebody who's like 33 years old, I think that you like.
I think by 18, you know how to flirt.
Let's say that somebody's been in relationships before as like 13 and 14 years old with people their age. You wouldn't say that all of a sudden it's okay for them to get engaged with somebody who's much older than them.
I think by 18 you know how to flirt, and I think by 18 you know what flirting means.
By 18 you know how to flirt? This person's a virgin.
Okay,
They're like flirting incredibly awkwardly in all of the messages. Like for this individual, probably not. But even if it was the case they knew how to flirt, that doesn't mean it's the case they know how to set boundaries when flirting.
This could be somebody
who identifies problems with the relationships for them. Doesn't mean
this
that they know
could be
how to identify.
this could be somebody. The virgin. Okay, this is somebody. Their nature with Chud occurred over like internet communication. So this person could be a virgin by nature of the fact that their relations occur over internet communication, and they're not meeting up with the parties involved. So this person could have a history of e-dating, e-sexting.
In that way,
the way they're
from
they're
what
not,
I'm reading,
they're not.
Chud is calling them
They're not
shy.
typing. Sure, they're
Chud's
shy.
calling
But
them shy. They're bad at asserting themselves.
they're not typing like someone who's never flirted before.
They're
I don't think
typing
this
like
is
somebody who's very new to flirting. I agree. It looks like they're trying to flirt. If they're very new to flirting, I mean, kind of. Look at the fucking messages, right? But fucking, whenever we're talking about broadly speaking, the way that this person interacted with the given interaction, just because you know how to flirt doesn't mean that you actually understand, broadly speaking, the ways of like which relationships work.
Well, with
Doesn't
the
mean you
15-year
understand the way that things have an effect on your psychology. There are things that your partner can do which have an effect on your psychology, which you might not know about until you're fucking like, you're like 20.
I don't think they're. I don't think they're.
24, 25.
I don't think they're like. I think. I don't think
it's
they're like.
gradient. It's a gradient that you certainly develop over time, and as it concerns to an individual who's 33 fucking years old and has been through many of these things, and an individual who is in high school. There's a very, very, very large power discrepancy there. It feels really bad, like thinking about the concept of somebody who is, even in just the case of like, just the case of having a sexual relationship, say they're like just hooking up or something, or they're just flirting and fucking around, the idea of somebody texting from high school, a 33-year-old person, is disgusting. It's like a vile thought in people's heads. It's a vile thought for a reason. Those moral intuitions have reasons behind them, and whenever you draw out those reasons, you realize that they apply.
I'm not disgusted. When I was 18,
that's fine. You've never
when I was 18, I had a hot teacher. If given the opportunity, I would have fucked, and I would not regret it today.
This is literally like fucking, oh my god, where was this kid teacher when I was a kid type shit. Like, genuinely, think about it. You don't have much experience with these types of relationships, right? I think that you should be defaulting to people who do have experience in, like, at the very least, understanding the psychology behind these types of relationships. And whenever you do default to those people, you'll find that they do not agree with you in this way.
There's no better way to get experience than trying it out. Test run, trial and error. Hey, this didn't work out. I'm going to note this for next time.
With a 33? Yeah, that's why we let them do it with people their age.
Based on these DMs, based on these DMs, I don't think there would be any like substantive
without the power dynamic.
If all DMs occurred the same and the other party was 18 years old and still had all the attributes like of a fan base,
if all the DMs
sexual experience, like Chud, I don't think anyone would change.
Existent, I think this person probably would have been comfortable asserting themselves. If they weren't
You
comfortable
can't.
asserting themselves, then you can learn with somebody who is of your age, and not with the doubt sowed in your head of this person is a fully developed brain, far more experienced in this field than I do.
You
Like,
can't see
surely you understand that so is doubt in somebody's mind about their own psychology. These things are complicated, Aiden. You said that you've never had a sexual relationship before. I'm telling you, I'll tell you directly that these things are very complicated and things that you have to learn over time.
I've flirted before. I've never had sex, right? Like, there's a difference.
And so if you've flirted with people before, have you ever flirted with somebody who was 15 years your senior?
Not 15 years. Up there.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna.
I'm sorry, Ricky's mom. I'm sorry.
I think you're smarter than your average person, right? I'll give you that, right? There's a very level baseline there. I think you probably have more ability to engage in a relationship with something like that. But broadly speaking, if you had engaged in a relationship and there was something that wasn't working for you, do you think you'd be really good at identifying the problem with the relationship and growing as a person? If the person had far more relationship experience than you did, you were just working through your emotions, and this person had much experience whenever it came to that field, and also they were a better communicator within a relationship, and they also had that type of dynamic of a content creator on you?
Yeah,
if you look up to them like a little bit.
If I looked up to them, but we're flirting,
like, surely you look up to them like a little bit, and that would show doubt in your mind that they're doing something wrong to you. If there was something wrong in the relationship, or just something that didn't work for you. And that's why you see these things bearing out within the data. These are the mechanistic explanation behind that.
I think the data you're referring to refers to like long-term, like my feeling is it's relationships involving like commitments. Like we're talking like IRL.
That's where the data is. It's involving commitments between people.
But I think there are variables.
The mechanistic explanation remains the same. And whenever you take a look at what psychologists have to say on concerning this matter as it pertains to broad relationships, these things remain the same. These are the citations that are used when talking about things like sexual relationships, and they're citations which are used because they are evidence in favor of the view. Right?
It seems psychologists
on the view that I have and not expect on the view that you have.
It seems like psychologists acknowledge that there is a substantial dynamic that exists, but I don't think by virtue of a substantial dynamic existing, the relationship itself is problematic. That's like I agree with the
to a degree. To a degree, but then whenever you actually take a look at like how substantial that dynamic can get, there are thresholds of which you see the significance trying to bear out in like poor ways for individuals. You see places where these dynamics become unproductive for individuals, and when we're talking about this individual, it is far past the line you'd be drawing whenever you're talking about the general psychological consensus.
Because she's a virgin.
Because of many factors, one of which being that she's a virgin, but many other factors as well. The other ones that we've discussed.
Like the fan base, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't. The
fan base.
This is my problem with this is my problem with the Call Me Carson shit. This is my problem with the Call Me Carson shit. People bring up the age, and then you'll make an argument around the age, and they'll describe dynamics that exist that they'll credit to the age that only exist.
Well, these things that track with age. But age is like in itself some form of
but the dynamic they're arguing regards the age is actually a dynamic involving like the fact that said person is a fan of another. So then you'll bring that up and they'll be like, okay, well, it's about the power dynamics.
I'm certainly not been like switching these things around on you. I can show you my research notes, as I've said. I can show you the mechanistic accounts. I can show you the testimony. These are all things which play a role in relationships. Many things play a role in relationships. Many things play a role in a power dynamic. And that's why it's so fucking difficult to compensate for such a thing, and why you see these types of relationships not working out.
But in an interaction,
like if we're taking a look at the reality of things, I think this individual, they're probably, as they were saying themselves, they weren't good at asserting their own boundaries. They weren't good at asserting things like that's fucking weird.
They weren't okay. If this is like for example, okay, they weren't. Wait, they said they weren't good at asserting their.
Do you understand why, like from my perspective, it's like super strange to lambast the fuck out of this person, lambast the fuck out of Noah Samson, and not have any criticism of Chud logic.
Well, didn't Noah Samson straight up call him a pedophile?
Yeah, and corrected himself right afterwards. Just showing that, this guy instead was flirting with somebody who's like 15 years their junior. Your average person doesn't have much of a problem with using that term like that.
Okay, what about like 40 and 25?
Like, there's like a little bit of discrepancy there, but like if somebody was flirting with like a 17, 8-month-old, nobody would have a problem with calling him a pedophile. What about what? What other point?
Wait, so 40 and 25, you don't think would be like a problem?
40 and 25, I think that it would be certainly less of a problem. I think that it would certainly be less of a problem, yeah. I think there's a lot of things that play into that.
So do you think in general, I'm just going
to cite the paper that you've already read off.
So you're just talking,
dynamics become more significant as you see the age decrease of the individual in question.
Okay. I think there are like situations where the dynamic would be substantial due to other variables, where it would be like equally as substantial like power dynamic disregarding age. Like I could see a situation where there's just as great of a
I agree with you, but like if there's like a disregarding of age, I could say this individual is like well developed and they have the ability to understand the dynamics that are at play, at least to some degree much greater than that of the individual that we're talking about. This individual is not going to understand dynamics very well, right? Like it doesn't seem like most people really have an intimate understanding of why these types of things don't work. They have like a taboo around, and they have a moral disgust feeling around it. And whenever you take a look at the people who are actually like putting in the effort to research into these types of things, like yeah, there's a reason, there's a mechanistic account for it, but people aren't going to be able to give that to you on their own.
Okay,
these things are complicated. They're hard.
Yeah. So okay, well, I guess what do you think the outcome of this should have been? Do you think Chud should have like what? Let's say assume your position. What happens to Chud now?
What happens to Chud? So personally, if it was me personally, I wouldn't fucking interact with the guy. I wouldn't want to fucking associate myself with the guy. If you want to do that, that's fucking, it's all on you, okay? You take that stance, you mark it the fuck out for yourself. I'm not here to say what the fuck should happen to Chud Logic. I just want us to have a fucking reality check. No, this is something morally bad to be doing. It's very clearly morally bad to be doing. Right, it's morally bad to be doing. The normal people's intuition surrounding this have the intuition that it's like a gross thing to be doing. It's like a moral disgust that invokes within people's heads. The reasons
maybe I don't
for
know that
which
intuition.
Yeah, you might not have the intuition, right? We have pulling
I'm not
data on the
disgusted.
intuition. I'm just giving you that, right? There's many things that to play. If you don't have the intuition, you can take a look at the researchers who have like put their time and effort, and the actual experts as it concerns to things like psychology and what they've said concerning things like power dynamics and relationships. And you can take a look at that.
Polling data
And you'll find that they actually do agree with my position on that type of thing.
I'm sure polling data would have been similar for homosexuals in the 1950s. Views on homosexuality in the 1950s. I'm sure we would have gotten similar polling data on.
Yeah, and you presumably have it's not just the polling data on its own. It's not the polling data on its own. I'm saying this is the general intuition surrounding it. Here's the research which backs up that general intuition surrounding it. Here's the arguments for why it's morally the case.
Well, I'm
giving you all of these things. I think it's insane for people to be so upset about me calling this out as a morally wrong thing whenever we've burned people at the stake for far lesser age gaps.
Okay, so it seems like but it just I don't know you keep saying we burn people for far less. I guess I don't know what you're referring to.
You can't think of a single age gap which is lesser than this
that we've burned people at the stake for?
Out of people for?
Can you give me an example? When you say we, who are you referring to?
Just generally within the commentary community, people have done far less egregious things than this. Even not just concerning age gaps, concerning just general practice on YouTube. Like if you can't come up with a single one in your head, I can list off some for you.
Yeah. Can you list one off? Just one.
Yeah. Can I list one off? Yeah, like the Dr. Disrespect stuff.
I didn't think that was a huge deal.
You don't think that's a huge deal? We can go down things like most of the I'm Alex stuff.
What was the?
Yeah, lying about your friend. Yeah, lying about your friend. I think is a lot less bad than something like this.
No, okay, but when you say we burn people for far less, it seems like you're talking about like relational dynamics.
Promoting things like gambling to kids.
Okay.
Well, we're talking about dynamics within relationships specifically. People were willing to burn the fuck out of Cammy at the stake whenever they thought it was a 4-year age gap.
Okay, that.
Like, think about it. Just like real shit. Think about it. Think about all the things that have happened. Do you think that if it was somebody that we didn't like, that we would give them this much charitability?
If it was somebody, yes, yeah, I don't see any like comparable situation.
You think that if I gave similar arguments to somebody else, you think that people would be like, "Oh, that's fucking crazy. That's some absurd shit." Really?
I mean, in this community,
I think the reason that intuition might exist is because they heard things like the "Call Me Carson" shit, where a bunch of people made a bunch of really retarded arguments surrounding age gaps and power dynamics. Whenever you take a look at the actual, just take a look at the research concerning it.
I think the double standard point is. Sure, I think the double standard point is retarded. Let's bring up the examples. Promoting gambling to kids. You want to talk about expect utility? The nature of this relation.
Do you want to just pull up some commentary YouTuber shit? Do you want to pick someone?
Well, no, you're the one that's asserting.
You want to pull up Chud Logic's channel?
You're saying we burn people for far less. I don't know what he's.
Oh, okay.
Burning people far less
what we're doing.
for. Yeah, you're just like making a double standard point. But like for Cammy,
Well,
like
yeah, no, I am making a double standard point. You're right. Like if the double standard point goes
Yeah.
through on your view, if you like
Yeah, so
agree,
I
like
just-
yeah, certainly people have banned Lambastic for less. Like that's sick. That's cool.
I guess I don't
right?
necessarily
Like,
agree. I think if this
fucking-
was anyone else,
There was
we would
like
still probably be
there was
defending
crazy
this.
attack against like Dream. Do you remember that during the John Spawn stuff?
in this community.
Yeah.
For what? For doing what?
For posting the Reddit post, for having like lied about John Swan.
Yeah, so the
Perfectly from his view, it was like a reasonable thing to have posted. Clearly, even if John Swan's story was true, it was a reasonable thing to have posted.
I think the
People
expect
still went
utility.
after him. People went
Sure,
after
because-
people like TwizFizz. What has TwizFizz done that's even close to this level?
I think there's a okay. I think you're like conflating making moral claims between mocking people for like content and making money.
Okay, so here's a moral claim. This is a moral claim in itself, and I'm mocking them. And for some reason, this person's off limits. This is too far because we like them. Do you understand where my issue exists?
I don't. I can't think of a case that exists in this community ever where it was a relation between two people over the age of 18, and just by virtue of the age, we burn them at the stake over it.
No, I agree. Again, I gave you the reason for that intuition. I think the dynamics
Sure.
between somebody who's like 18 years old and somebody who's like 4 years younger than, I think there's a much less of a dynamic between those two. Just purely on age alone. If we were talking about the original Cammy allegations, yeah, it's like far less of a dynamic that was accused.
Yeah, but the
like,
whole
clearly,
community,
like trivially.
the ending conclusion of the whole community was that this was probably
Yeah,
okay.
eventually, whenever it was pointed out, that, oh shit, they're actually wording this document in a really deceptive way. They have a deceptive way that very specifically is trying to make it seem like Cammy is older than he is. The gap is larger than what it is. But whenever people thought the original gap was the case, they were totally willing to do so. Cammy was willing to dip the fuck off the internet because of it out of shame.
Sure, but what you're conflating
like, surely
is
you remember this. We worked on this together.
yes, no, but what you're conflating right now is
And
people's
so,
opinion.
If we're able to mock
people's
all of these other people for content,
Can I just
for
hold
these
on?
things
What
that they've
you're
done
conflating?
wrong,
What you're
what is
conflating
wrong
right
with
now?
this Chud
No,
logic?
but your equivalence doesn't work. When what you're conflating right now is people's opinions relating to their misinterpretation of a situation, like without the proper facts.
No, it does work.
Versus people's interpretation of Chud logic with the actual facts of the situation.
Let's assume the case that the original facts were true. If we assume the case that the original facts were true, we can still get the opinion of people, broadly speaking, as it concerns this type of thing, and we can see that it doesn't bear out the same. There is like very clearly a double standard there.
That he had taken advantage of her and manipulated her and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, if I believe somebody had manipulated somebody, assuming all of that is true,
taken advantage of in virtue of the fact that they had done what? That there was a gap that existed there that was large.
No,
That
but she was like, no, but in the original doc, wasn't she like making claims that he was like pressuring her to do things? Wasn't there like allegations like of pressuring to do things she didn't want to do?
Of pressuring
that kind
of
of
doing things that she didn't want to do? Where was that citation for it?
I don't have the document in front of me, but
Okay.
wasn't there a lot
So
more than he was?
Let's
I was
just
15, he was 18.
I'm willing to throw that the fuck. I'm willing to grant that to you. Okay, throw it the fuck out. Sure, absolutely. We're
Pretty sure
totally
that's what
willing to
happened.
mock people and rail against people for far less moral crimes. Right? That's totally okay to make content out of. But the second that you say that this is morally wrong, now it's a really big issue.
Well, the content
now that's
once
some
we
crazy shit to be saying.
Well,
You
no, once
understand?
we the actual facts,
You understand
once we
the point?
once we the actual facts of that situation, we're all defending him.
No, I'm saying that I'm willing to grant that to you. I'm willing to grant to you that he was lied about, right? I'm willing to grant to you, let's just throw the case out entirely, say I'm completely wrong on that, okay? Even if that is true, right? Even granting that, there are other examples. If you just look down, if you just look at fucking that Chud Logic's content, there is allegations. He's making content mocking people for far less.
Okay, Chud, but okay,
He's
we're
willing to
starting.
make content mocking people for far less.
Yeah, but you're comparing mocking to like serious moral claims, and people did mock Chud.
These
in
are
this
serious
community.
moral claims.
They
He's
mock
mocking
Chud to this
them
day.
off of this
wait,
moral claim.
wait, you realize penetrate shyness is like memes in his chat. He's still mocked over this to this day. So yes, the people still mock him over this. If the point is
so
we mock people,
if
we still mock him. We mock
if
him
we
as well.
agree- If we agree that we're totally okay with mocking and attacking Chud Logic for this, is there a problem with the morals of the situation? Do you have a problem with any of the moral arguments I made?
No, I don't think Bo Black's did
Okay.
anything morally wrong by getting in a fucking dress. I don't think Bo did anything wrong, but we're gonna make fun of him for it.
There you go. I think that is there a single thing you have issue with then?
I don't
You
agree
don't have a
with your
problem with the moral
conclusion.
claims, and you don't have a
you've-
problem with the. So my conclusion is that
think-
it's morally wrong. That's my
I think
conclusion. It's deeply morally wrong.
I think what you've argued, I think your argument has led me to the belief that there is a substantial dynamic that exists, but that's a belief I already had coming into this conversation.
It's a substantial dynamic that exists, and so let's just let me throw this out
I don't
for you,
think
okay?
the 18-year-old had the inability to consent to a.
Let's say it was the case.
Can I just say something real quick? I don't think an 18-year-old had the inability. I don't think the 18-year-old, based on what I've seen, I don't think the 18-year-old had a fundamental inability to consent to like a flirtatious exchange.
Okay, that's fine for you. We'll grant that. Now, let me bring up the case of, let's say this person was 17 and 8 months old, right? And it came out that Chud Logic was having these exact messages with somebody who was 17 and 8 months old. What would your moral intuitions around that be? Would you think that's egregious?
Hey man, I think setting it at 18 is like
would you think that's morally egregious?
Egregious? That's like a loaded term.
That's morally wrong.
I'd say
very
it's wrong.
morally wrong.
Yes, and I can tell you why.
Okay, and so you'd say that that's very morally wrong, and presumably the thing you think that's morally wrong about fucking around with a 17-year-old is not on majority the violation of some social standard which doesn't apply to him, right?
With my answer as a follow-up, I'd say it's morally wrong because even if even if 17, 8 months was like Mr. Sex or whatever and emancipated and whatever, right? Even assuming that, I would say it was morally wrong because I think that this is a good place to set the gap because judges can't assess every relationship ever. So I think setting the age of consent reduces harm.
We're not talking about legality. We're not talking about which laws
but the legality directly plays. If the law reduces overall harm,
what is really morally wrong about
that? Is more
with the case that exists with a 17-year-old. If it was the case that the age of consent was 17, like it is in many places, or 16, like it is in many places in Western countries, do you think it would be okay, or do you think it would still be kind of egregious?
No, because I think the social standard should also be 18.
So you think the social standard should be 18? You think that that's where the standard should be, and you think that's where the
to minimize harm.
Should be
yeah, I think setting it at 18 will minimize harm.
So
yes, and I think starting that for temporary pleasure.
So if that's where the standard broadly should be, right? Let's just okay, I think that we should broadly have a standard that you don't fuck around with people who are less than 18 years old. I don't think that the thing that is really morally wrong about the 17-year-old case, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, it is that there is some social boundary which is violated. I think the thing that's wrong about it is the effects that it has on the individual. I think that's the thing that's wrong about the majority of these relationships. There's something to be said about things that indicates about somebody who does cross those social boundaries.
Of course.
But the thing that's mostly morally wrong about that is the effect on the individuals. Now, if we agree that there's not a large gap in the cognitions of the individuals between 17 and 8 months and 18 years old, then the actual effect, the big thing that's morally wrong about this remains the same. Listen, it's very similar.
I think sometimes the public would be more receptive to what you had to say if you use more like brevity in the way you talk. Personally, it's just a bit of a friendly feedback because you do tend to yap a little bit. But what about
that was yap? I've had to re-explain the same things over and over and over again. I understand. I'm trying to explain it to you. I think that broadly speaking, it would be it'd be a lot easier for you if you just kind of directly went to the question. You had a direct answer to them.
So, for example, on your stream on your Queen Debate stream at timestamp 1 hour and 1 minute, when Queen was asking you what the difference was between 33 or what was it, a 60-30 relationship and an 18-33 relationship, you said the ability for the individual to understand the expectations of a relationship, to understand how to communicate their feelings in a relationship, go about a relationship in a healthy manner, conduct themselves in a way that is actually good for that relationship. Also, for individuals to have a relationship that is incredibly prosperous with the two individuals.
It's a complicated thing. Relationships are a complicated thing. You ask complicated questions, you get complicated answers.
Three of those things were the same thing. You could have combined all of those into one sentence.
Which three of those are the same thing?
Sure. So I think going about a relationship in a healthy manner and conducting themselves in a way that is actually good for the relationship mean the same thing.
So you think that those mean the exact same thing? That's fine. I can grant that. Now, what's the problem with the fucking argument?
I just think the audience would be more receptive. There's more brevity to the way you talk.
So you have an issue with the way that I talked on my very first stream back. That's super sick. But the argument remains the same. The argument remains unattacked. Right. What I care about is not this this like optics cucking of like, well, what is the very much so the most possible? What is the thing that I could have said that would be the best possible thing to have said in that situation? Yeah, I'm sorry, dog. Whenever you're debating people in the moment, it gets kind of difficult. You can go back on anything. You could say like, oh, I would have said something different. But broadly speaking, I'm sorry. The thing that I care about is being correct on the fucking argument. And as far as it concerns the argument, I was fucking correct. It's unattacked.
But I'm saying, wouldn't if you
like,
believe
you don't have
that,
a good attack against the argument. I think you know that you don't have a good attack line.
No, I do. But I think if
What's
you
the good
believe
attack line?
Sure.
Stop talking about the completely unrelated shit. Start talking about the actual attack line that you
no,
have.
Hold the phone. We're looping, and I think I wanted to give you some genuine fucking advice because if you have a position that you believe to be like morally correct, you should want to win more people over to that position. And I think
agree. I'm more critical of my own debates than you're going to be critical of them.
So
I know more of the fuck ups that I make. Whenever we're talking about the debate that I had with Queen,
so I'm giving you advice.
Listen, Aiden, with respect, I don't need your debate advice.
I think you do. I think you do.
You think that I need your debate advice?
Yes.
Okay. So
I don't think I don't think you're making audiences receptive to what you have to say at all.
My main audience is receptive to what I have to say. I think they're perfectly receptive.
You had 60 people in chat all shitting on you.
Let's actually talk about there's a lot of people on the internet who don't like me. There's more people who like Queen Man than like me. If I'm shitting on Queen Man, people are gonna have a problem with it. I'm sorry. He has like 1K. He had like 2K viewers last night. He had no shit. I'm a smaller content creator. If I go on and talk to fucking Destiny, people are gonna shit on me in his chat. People might come into my chat and shit on me. I'm sorry. What I care about are the actual fucking arguments. What I care about is tailoring my rhetoric to normal fucking people.
Yeah, but wouldn't you want to win over the 60 that are like in your chat to your moral position?
There are some sets of people who are just, broadly speaking, the way that you're going to win them over is by having them pissed off. There are people who will attack things that you have to say without actually listening to a damn word of it. A lot of people have tried to attack things that I say, and I can see that a lot of them didn't fucking pay attention. This isn't like, wait, you're gonna play video games? Didn't you say that playing video games is morally wrong in the Queen Man debate? There's a lot of people who don't pay attention to debate. There are a lot of people who just get upset whenever they hear something that they don't agree with. They don't actually track the argument. Like, I'm sorry,
video games
Aiden,
point.
I understand that there are things that could be done better in given debates. I understand that. What I want to hear is want to hear your argument on the actual attack line against the things that I have to say.
Well, yeah, we've been doing that. But I guess now I want to
let's go back to doing that. Let's go back to this this silver bullet argument I have not to you, Dad. Let's go back to the silver bullet.
Listen, you're welcome for the advice, but the thing that I would bring up now is when Queen brought up the video game point. Hold on, where is it? Essentially, you were like, it seemed like your argument was.
Do you not want to debate me on Chud logic? No, we're going to talk about Queen Man. Yeah, we can talk about Queen Man. Fuck it.
No, but this is related.
If you don't want to go on to your silver bullet of the argument, let's talk about Queen Man.
No, I'm relating the whole. Can you let me? I've let you yap for so. Can you just let me finish? Just one point, please, sir.
I've let you interrupt me many times throughout this conversation, Aiden.
You're right.
Gonna go back and watch this, and you're gonna realize, oh yeah, no, I like interrupted fairly frequently. I was just let to. That's. I'm saying that we just had this conversation.
You're right.
And I feel like we've been kind of normal with the conversation, but.
I'm the master of interruption. Okay.
What?
So right here. I'm the master of interruption. Master being like, master of interruption.
Or I just let you interject because I'm like cool with you interjecting into my sentences.
No, I'm sorry. I know I've interrupted a lot. I'm sorry, man. What I was gonna say. Okay, my follow up here would be. Yeah. So what I'm saying now is you said in your debate with Queen Man, I'm relating this back to Chud. Queen Man brought up the video game point, and you can correct me if this wasn't your point, but then we brought up like procrastination. If procrastination was morally wrong, this doesn't have positive expect utility, and you're saying, you were essentially saying that like, if your willpower, your response was that your like willpower only goes. Procrastination doesn't mean you physically can't do something. Your response was your willpower only goes to a certain extent, as though like you're not as though like you're not morally culpable if you use all of your willpower and still can't achieve an end, right?
No, you're not. You're not morally culpable if you use all of your willpower and still can't achieve an end.
Okay, what if
Chud
knew?
You're not morally culpable for what?
Sure. No. So my follow would be, what if Chud knew that he shouldn't be messaging this 18-year-old, but she was just so fucking hot.
Do you think that's the case?
Tried to fight all of his.
Is nobody else fucking on him? Is he that repulsive?
I think that's the case.
You think he's that repulsive?
No, what if you
No,
just
I don't
found
think
this
that's the
18
case broadly for rapists. I think that's the case broadly for rapists. Broadly for rapists. I think that broadly speaking, you have those types of thoughts beforehand, and you certainly can get help. I think that certain people do get help. I think that some people, for some subset of people, yeah, that might be true. It might be true that they're like, let's say somebody's like fucking schizophrenic and they have like absolutely no control over their will. Yeah, then they're not like culpable for this like thing that they were born wrong with. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, if a fucking schizophrenic guy goes around and, like, shoots at people because he's seeing fucking demons, no, they're not morally culpable for that as a failing. They couldn't do otherwise. Okay, this is just, like really well established. If you want to talk to me about philosophy, Aiden, this is not the place you want to pivot off to.
Okay. Well, if procrastination is like... I'm just trying to learn here, buddy. If procrastination... Oh, okay. If procrastination...
I'm just waiting for it to tie back into the Chud logic point, but...
Yeah, well, I just did. I'm talking about...
Well, you said, like, what if things were different? So yeah, like, what if they were different?
Wait, no.
What if things weren't the same?
So Chud himself acknowledges he doesn't agree with these type of dynamics. He probably is well aware that social sentiment would be against it, right? I'll grant you that. Most people would be like, yeah, you shouldn't do this, right? I'll grant you that. But he goes and does it anyway when there are other fish in the sea. Why? Maybe it is his inability. It is inability to fight his own will. Just like a procrastinator who believes they need to. Do you think it's really that different?
If you think it's the case that Chud Logic cannot fight his own will to not sex people he shouldn't be sexting, then why the fuck are you promoting him?
Because
why the fuck are you giving them a position, Aiden?
Should I not promote procrastinators?
No, you are Yeah, if the way that they procrastinate is fucking around with people they should not be fucking around with, no, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't, Aiden.
I
don't think you should promote people of poor moral character.
I don't
think you should promote people who are unable to control their own actions in such ways. If you can't stop yourself from doing egregious moral wrong when you have the ability to do so, due to the fact that you have such a crazy large audience, I don't think you should make it larger. That's my position, okay. Aiden.
I don't think the outcome.
Tying this back in to what I said doesn't make it look better for you.
I think
we can keep doing it.
You're right. Chat's flaming me. I think that
I'm sure that chat really likes you. I'm sorry. Like, I understand the take's going to make people upset. That's why I say it. I wouldn't want to say things that everybody else agrees with. That'd be like a waste of my fucking time.
I think that, like, for the potential negative outcomes of like a flirtatious relationship, even if we're not talking about like his moral culpability, like the potential outcomes of the situation on its own, for like a temporary flirtatious exchange, 18 and 33, I think would be maybe like comparable to like the guy that's procrastinating on his math homework. I'm serious.
You think that those are comparable, and you think that Chud Logic.
Yeah.
So broadly speaking, what do you think is the So Chud Logic, on your view, this is like your real shit view. It cannot control himself, and like whenever it comes to his sexual urges like this, he just can't do it. It's just past him.
With people he believes to be adults, then I think that it's probably fine.
You think that it's probably fine? And going back to the arguments we've had earlier, right? The majority of the things that are bad onto the person who is being sexted with, like, imagine that you found out somebody was like going around sexting people who were like fairly young, right? Like somebody who was like 17 and 8 months old. You wouldn't be okay with promoting that type of person. You'd surely give them some kind of ridicule, right? You won't associate with that type of person, the type of person who can't stop themselves from doing that?
Because are you familiar with the paradox of vagueness?
Like, no, inform me on the paradox of vagueness.
You don't know what the paradox of vagueness is, really?
Yeah, inform me on it. Go ahead.
Okay, so
I have no idea. Go ahead.
Okay, so you have like a heap of sand, right? And you keep removing a grain of sand. If you remove one grain of sand from the heap, it's still a heap. If you remove another grain of sand from the heap, it's still a heap. So at what point do we remove enough grains where the heap of sand is no longer a heap, right? So the solution, So one of the argued solutions, which I tend to agree with, is we quantify heap in some way so we can distinguish a heap of sand from a non-heap. And if we don't set a hard line like 18 and we just go like 17 and 8 months, you could say, okay, well then what about 17 and 7 months? Okay, well what about 17 and 6 months? Okay, well what about 17 and 5 months? You have to draw the sharp line somewhere, because you can just keep removing the grain of sand. And sharp lines the sharp line reduces harm. So 17, 8 months, still bad because
this doesn't address what I just said. You understand, but no, I'm familiar with it. I'm sorry. I've already given responses to this type of argument. They exist on my channel.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just a problem with semantic vagueness. As far as it concerns to individuals, yeah, you might not be able to exactly place where that threshold is for a given individual. What I'm saying is, when this case, if we're taking two moral cases, and there are a set of things which make one case morally wrong, and we're taking a look at what actually makes it morally wrong, what the things that are really bad in that case are, we're taking a look at the comparisons between the two. We should be able to identify the given traits which are not true of the second case that are true of the first case. Right, and in the case of the first case, right, there's a bunch of things which are the big things that make it morally wrong, which apply to the second case.
Wait, what's the second? Okay, one of the cases.
The case of a
Chud's
17 and 8-month-year-old and an 18-year-old. Right, the big thing that's morally wrong there is not the violation of the law. If the law was different, you wouldn't say that this is no longer morally wrong.
Yeah. So on its own, it wouldn't be substantially.
It's not like a catch-all response to people asking you questions. I'm sorry. At some point in time, the grain of sand becomes a heap. Right? No, and we can test that differently between different people. I would say there's a broad definition for that, because given individuals, there are different ranges of which they would be able to place the grains of sand as a heap. There's going to be some place for which the general consensus exists towards like this distribution, right? There's like some sort of mean distribution that exists there. Whenever we're talking concerns to things like age or other forms of things, are you familiar with fuzzy logic? Do you know how this is used as an argument in favor of fuzzy logic?
No. What?
Okay, so fuzzy logic is just the instantiation that there is a certain there's a certain degree of which things are true, right? So here's an example that might be given.
Oh, like Chud's OnlyFans.
So here's an example of a case of vagueness which is used in favor of fuzzy logic, right? Let's say at what point does a woman become old? Right? What point is somebody an old woman? What somebody who agrees with fuzzy logic would say, what somebody who instantiates that over classical logic, is that there is some given threshold of which they are more so. There's this truth value that moves towards it being true. There's somewhere in between something being true and false. It denies the idea. It denies the law of the excluded middle as it concerns the classical logic, one of the three laws. As it concerns to, broadly speaking, how we actually test people for this type of thing, individuals are going to have a place where that threshold is met, right? Generally speaking, there's going to be some homeostatic property cluster, a set of properties which all actually relate to a given threshold, which is eventually crossed in the given vagueness case. Now, for the individual who we're talking about in this case, when we're talking about the morals and the ethics of these given situations, there is vagueness as far as it's slightly less morally bad. But whenever we take a look at the things that make it morally bad, they instantiate in both cases. Right? You would not be okay with promoting that type of person. You wouldn't be okay with promoting that type of person, not because the laws are a certain way, not because the social norms are a certain way, because there's something that's wrong. There's something that's wrong there exists onto the person who's in the young individual in the relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't think about it like that.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're gonna bring up paradoxes of vagueness, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to you have to understand what these are used for.
Listen.
Right. There's not you could say that there's a given point at which people will start calling it morally wrong. But that's a semantic dispute. It's not actually a dispute about the morals.
I got you. All right. Well, we can come back to this. I think it's safe to say you won. Dude, that is a funny orangutan. I think it's safe to say you won. We can come back to this. But I agree. All right. Thank you. For the debate. Let's do it again some other time. Goodbye.
Cool. Let's bring up vagueness paradoxes and not understand what the fuck they are. Let's bring them up with no understanding of what they relate to. There's severities of moral wrongness. There's an amount of which something is a pile of sand. Very banger. Very awesome. Very sick. That was the debate Aiden prepped for? That was the prepped for debate? Is Dakota done fucking talking to dumb people? Good faith and linear is crazy. Absolutely. We only do good faith linear conversations on this channel. We would never engage in any type of dishonest debate activity. There's a strict rule against it, okay? Every single person who I think is being dishonest immediately gets kicked off the channel. Instantly gets kicked off the channel. Like, real shit. We randomly went into... You taught this guy? For a little bit, yeah. Now apparently he's teaching me a debate. Actually, two of these things overlap. These two of these things overlap, actually. Just two of them. Yeah, I'm sorry. Is there an attack to the argument? Or are we just doing the tone policing? Are we only doing tone policing? Is that all we're going to? Real shit? It's interesting though. Real shit, I'm sat here not knowing what he disagrees with. Like, there's just like, the best, like, steel man of the argument I've got, I think, is, there has to be a line somewhere, and anything past that line is okay. And we're gonna disregard why we draw that line in the first place. Because to instantiate anything past that is too much for a judge to handle when the judge is judging the morals. Real shit. Why are we promoting this guy then? He's actually completely incapable of withholding his dick from the minors, actually. He's completely incapable of asking for an actual age before he talks to people. It's just too much willpower. It's too much. It's too much to expect onto a grown man. The bar is low. The bar has gotten severely low. Low key, I want to like go over that with Dakota. I want Dakota to see that. Well, my commentary viewers agree with me, actually. My commentary viewers, actually, my chat, all of my chat agrees with me, actually.
Yo.
Holy shit. Oh my god, I just debated Aiden.
Oh, is it on the fucking Chud thing?
I need you to see it. I like desperately need you to see it. I want to like just go to the part where he hangs up on me.
We're live right now, right?
Yes, absolutely we are.
Hello, chat.
Hello, chat. What is up? Dakota is here. Aiden Project. Did somebody have Aiden Project's like actual channel? Can I get Aiden Project's channel? Where's his channel? Like, where's his actual shit? Aiden Underground, I guess. Here it is. Oh, he goes back and ends up looking up my shit. Or is that what's going on?
What I was gonna say.
Many times throughout this conversation, Aiden.
You're right. I'm
gonna go back and watch.
Please.
I thought you interrupt me. Holy shit. This is monk coping. It is my cope. It's the greatest cope. Queeman is a 2 to K3 viewer streamer. I mean, yeah, last time I checked. Yeah. Fucking he can pull 2 to K 3K viewers. He was doing it last time. What the fuck? Bro, Aiden's chat is like retarded.
When Queeman brought up the video game point,
okay. Can you see it? Is it working now?
Let me.
Now it's,
give me just a
there we
second.
go. I'll move it over. Pop this shit over. shit. Nope, now it's no longer sharing the correct screen. I fucking hate Discord. I'm gonna kill whoever made Discord. If they ever die under suspicious circumstances, no, it was me. I claim that.
Here we go. I see it.
Oh, you see it now? Fantastic.
I do. I see it.
Hold on, where is it? Essentially, you were like, it seemed like your argument was.
So do you not want to debate me on Chud logic? No, we're gonna talk about Queen. Yeah, we can talk about Queen Man. Fuck
No,
it.
but this is related to.
If you don't want to go on your silver bullet of the argument,
No,
let's
this is.
talk about
I'm
Queen Man.
relating the whole. Can you let me? I've let you yap for so long. Can you just let me finish? Just one point, please, sir, please.
I bet you interrupted me many times throughout this conversation, Aiden.
You're right.
You could go back and watch this, and you're gonna realize, oh yeah, no, I like interrupted fairly frequently. I was just let to.
You're right.
I'm saying that we
No,
just
you're
had
right.
this conversation. I feel like we've been kind of normal with the conversation.
I'm the master of interruption. No, so right here.
What?
So right, I'm the master of interruption. Master of being like, master of interruption. So
Or I just let you interject because I'm like cool with you interjecting into my
No, I'm
sentences.
sorry. I know I've interrupted a lot. I'm sorry, man. What I was gonna say. Okay, my follow up here would be.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah. So what I'm saying now is, you said in your debate with Queenman, I'm relating this back to Chud. Queenman brought up the video game point, and you can correct me if this wasn't your point, but then we brought up like procrastination. If procrastination was morally wrong, this isn't a positive expect utility, and you're saying, you were essentially saying that like, if your willpower, your response was that your like willpower only goes. Procrastination doesn't mean you physically can't do something. Your response was your willpower only goes to a certain extent, as though like you're not as though like you're not morally culpable if you use all of your willpower and still can't achieve an end, right?
No, you're not. You're not morally culpable if you use all of your willpower and still can't achieve an
Okay,
end.
what if Chud knew?
No, you're not morally culpable for.
Sure.
What?
Sure, no. So my follow would be, what if Chud knew that he shouldn't be messaging this 18-year-old, but she was just so fucking hot that he used
Do you think that's the case?
tried to fight all of his will. I think that's
Is
the case.
nobody else fucking on him?
I
Is
think
he
that's
that
the case.
repulsive?
I think that's the case for
You
rapists.
think he's that repulsive?
No, but if you just found this
No, I don't think
18-year-old
that's the case broadly for rapists. I think that broadly speaking, you have those types of thoughts beforehand, and you certainly can get help. I think that certain people do get help. I think that some people, for some subset of people, yeah, that might be true. It might be true that they're like, let's say somebody's like fucking schizophrenic and they have like absolutely no control over their will. Yeah, then they're not like culpable for this like thing that they were born wrong with. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like if a fucking schizophrenic guy goes around and like shoots at people because he's seeing fucking demons, no, they're not morally culpable for that as a failing. They couldn't do otherwise.
Okay, so it's like
This is just like really well established. If you want to talk to me about philosophy,
Yeah, but-
Aiden, this is not the place you want to pivot off to.
Okay. Well, if procrastination is like, I'm just trying to learn here, buddy. If procrastination.
Oh, okay.
If procrastination.
I'm just waiting for it to tie back into the Chud logic point. But.
Yeah. Well, I just did. I'm talking about.
Well, you said like, what if things
So
were
Chud-
different?
yeah,
Like, what
wait,
if they were different?
Wait, no. So Chud.
What if things weren't the same?
So Chud himself acknowledges he doesn't agree with these type of dynamics. He probably is well aware that.
There we go.
He's probably well aware that social sentiment would be against it, right? I'll grant you that. Most people would be like, yeah, you shouldn't do this, right? I'll grant you that. But he goes and does it anyway when there are other fish in the sea. Why? Maybe it is his inability. To fight his own will. Just like a procrastinator who believes they need to. Do you think it's really that different from a kid?
If you think it's the case that Chud logic cannot fight his own will to not sex people he shouldn't be sexting, then why the fuck are you promoting him?
Because.
Why the fuck are you getting in that position? Aiden?
Should I not promote procrastinators?
No, you are procrastinate. Yeah, if the way that they procrastinate is fucking around with people they should not be fucking around with, no, you shouldn't.
I think
No, you shouldn't, Aiden.
I think
Yeah,
many
I don't think you should
procrastinators-
promote people of poor moral character.
for the outcomes?
No, I don't think you should promote people who are unable to control their own actions in such ways. If you can't stop yourself from doing egregious moral wrong when you have the ability to do something large, I don't think you should make it larger.
Okay.
That's my position, Aiden.
I don't think the outcome of
Tying this back in to what I said doesn't make it look better for you.
I think that the
We can keep doing it.
You're right. Chat's flaming me. I think that the potential.
No, I'm sure that Chad really likes you. I'm sorry. Like, I understand the take's gonna make people upset. That's why I say it.
I'm a
I
popular
wouldn't want
guy.
to say things
What
that
can I
everybody
say?
else agrees with.
I'm a popular guy.
That'd be like a
What
waste
can
of
I
my fucking time.
I think that like for the potential negative outcomes of like a flirtatious relationship, even if we're not talking about like if we're not talking about like his moral culpability, like the potential outcomes of the situation on its own, like a temporary flirtatious exchange, 18 and 33, I think would be maybe like comparable to like the guy that's procrastinating on his math homework. I'm serious.
You think that those are comparable, and you think that
Yeah.
Chud logic. So broadly speaking, what do you think is the? So Chud logic, on your view, this is like your real shit view. It cannot control himself, and like whenever it comes to sexual urges like this, he just can't do it. It just passed him.
With people he believes to be adults, then I think that it's probably fine.
You think that is probably fine. And going back to the arguments we've had earlier, right? The majority of the things that are bad onto the person who is being sexted with, imagine that you found out somebody was like going around sexting people who were like fairly young, right? Like somebody who was like 17, 8 months old. You wouldn't be okay with promoting that type of person. You'd surely give them some kind of ridicule, right?
No,
you won't associate with that type of person, the type of person who can't stop themselves from doing that.
Because are you familiar with the paradox of vagueness?
Current Chud has learned.
No,
yeah, Current Chud has learned that actually the thing that he said was wrong. I'm like, fucking shit.
Paradox of vagueness? You know what the paradox of vagueness is, really?
He learned the things that he said
let's
were
say
wrong.
no
idea. Go ahead. In the messages.
Okay, so you have like a heap of sand, right? And you keep removing a grain of sand. If you remove one grain of sand from the heap, it's still a heap. If you remove another grain of sand from the heap, it's still a heap. So at what point do we remove enough grains where the heap of sand is no longer a heap? Right? So the solution, so one of the argued solutions, which I tend to agree with, is we quantify heap in some way so we can distinguish a heap of sand from a non-heap. And if we don't set a hard line like 18 and we just go like 17 8 months, you could say, okay, well then what about 17 and 7 months? Okay, well what about 17 and 6 months? Okay, well what about 17 and 5 months? You have to draw the sharp line somewhere, because you can just keep removing the grain of sand, and sharp lines do not. The sharp line reduces harm. So 17 8 months.
Yeah, it's
still
really.
bad because we should.
So this doesn't address what I just said.
Yeah. So the really condescending, like you don't know what the paradox of vagueness is. You're thinking of the heat paradox or the Sorites paradox. No hate, Aiden. You know you're my little guy, my little buddy, but that was, come on, dog. You can't like get the philosophical term wrong and be condescending about it.
No, you totally can't. Okay, let him.
It's not.
Stop shitting on him. He's fucking cool.
Paradox of vagueness.
He's winning the debate.
It's a vagueness case. It's about vagueness.
Stop. You can't.
Yeah. Let's focus it.
You literally can't. Understand? But no, I'm familiar with it. I'm sorry. I've already given responses to this type of argument. They exist on my channel.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just a problem with semantic vagueness. As far as it concerns to individuals, yeah, you might not. Bunk only speaks probably because Chud's on his break. Fucking go get Chud Logic back. Right now. Right fucking now. Okay? The second he comes back, I'll totally talk to the guy. I'd absolutely talk to the guy. Be able to exactly place where that threshold is for a given individual. What I'm
pause real quick.
On some break or something.
Chud goes on break right after it's found out that he was like secretly sweeping for this groomer. Like nobody was saying anything about it, and everyone was helping to promote this guy. Oh, groomer might be a strong. No, groomer's not a strong word. There was that 15-year-old, huh? Damn, that's pretty fucked up.
There was the 15-year-old.
For Destiny.
Oh.
There's a 15-year-old whose bikini pictures he shared around.
No, I remember this. Yes, I remember this.
Yeah.
This was a fun one. I remember when we argued with Worski about that. What I'm saying is, when this case, if we're taking two moral cases, and there are a set of things which make one case morally wrong, and we're taking a look at what actually makes it. If Chud never expressed anti-trans opinion, we would never have this convo. What? I had to be told like afterwards. Like people, Dakota could confirm. I had to be told afterwards that he's like anti-trans now. Oh, yeah, he's a fucking weirdo, and then somebody else brought it up.
Am I tripping, or wasn't I the one? It wasn't I the one who told you? I remember it.
I think it was. I thought it was pragmatic leftist. I thought it was Juniper.
Oh, it might have been Juniper.
I think it was Juniper. Whenever I was like talking about like, yep, this is gonna be the take. That's gonna be the fun one.
Venomous villains. His Bunk is just trying to take out the other Gawk hunters so that he can have it all for himself.
That's right.
Any response to this allegation?
That's right.
Admission.
Morally wrong. But the things that are really bad in that case are, we're taking a look at the comparisons between the two. We should be able to identify the given traits which are not true of the second case that are true of the first case. Right? And in the case of the first case, right? Tense of the first case, there's a bunch of things which are the big things that make it morally wrong, which apply to the second case.
Wait, what's the second? Okay, one of the cases is the Chud.
The case of a 17 and 8-month-year-old and an 18-year-old. Right? Yeah. The big thing that's morally wrong there is not the violation of the law. If the law was different, you wouldn't say that this is no longer morally wrong.
Yeah, so on its own, it wouldn't be substantially...
It's not like a catch-all response to people asking you questions. I'm sorry, at some point in time, the grain of sand becomes a heap.
No, yeah.
Right? And we can test that differently between different people. Yeah. I wouldn't say there's a broad definition for that, because in given individuals, there are different ages, there are different ranges of which they would be able to place the grains of sand as a heap. So there's going to be some place where which the general consensus exists towards like this distribution, right? There's like some sort of mean distribution that exists there. Whenever we're talking concerns to things like age or other forms of things, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense to Aiden's chat. They're lost.
This isn't complicated.
All of this has like lost Aiden's chat. The idea that there's like two situations we can identify traits that make them morally wrong, that's lost the fuck out of Aiden's chat. They're fucking.
They need to turn off
These
the
are the
YouTube shorts and
people.
pop some addies.
These are the people who Aiden is referencing when they talk about how they're winning the debate conversation. I'm sorry. I don't even have to say like I would. When my chat would act this retarded, I call them up. I'm sorry, you're getting fucking banned, okay? If I'm talking to somebody and you say some dumb shit like that while they're explaining a point, and it's like some complete coherent shit, I'm banning you from my fucking chat. I don't want to see your dumb shit. You can watch the stream. I don't want to see your fucking chat messages, okay? You don't get to have that. You don't get to have the privilege of talking in the chat. Bunk is subbed to Popey's fans.
Bro's a dictator.
I've got 10 accounts and I've subbed on all of them. Are you familiar with fuzzy logic? Do you know how this is used as an argument in favor of fuzzy logic?
No. What?
Okay, so fuzzy logic is just the instantiation that there is a certain there's a degree of which things are true, right? So here's
Hold
an
on,
example
pause.
that might
I think I was about to say, fuck, god damn it. You didn't pause past it. Yeah, fuzzy logic is what the miner calls Chud.
case of vagueness. So here's an example of a case of vagueness, which is used in favor of fuzzy logic, right? But let's say like, at what point does a woman become old, right? What point is somebody an old woman? Right? What somebody who like, agrees with fuzzy logic would say, what somebody who like instantiates that over classical logic, is that there is some given threshold of which like they are more and more and more so. There's like this truth value that moves towards it being true. There's somewhere in between something being true and false. It denies the idea that it denies the law of the excluded middle as it concerns the classical logic, one of the three laws. As it concerns to, broadly speaking, how we actually test people for this type of thing, individuals are going to have a place where that threshold is met, right? Generally speaking, there's going to be some homeostatic property cluster, a set of properties which all actually relate to a given threshold, which is eventually crossed in the given vagueness case. Now, for the individual who we're talking about in this case, when we're talking about the morals and the ethics of these given situations, there is vagueness as far as it's like slightly less morally bad. But when we take a look at the things that make it morally bad, they instantiate in both cases. Right? You would not be okay with promoting that type of person. You wouldn't be okay with promoting that type of person, not because the laws are a certain way, not because the social norms are a certain way, because there's something that's wrong. There's something that's wrong there exists on to the person who's in the young individual in the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I didn't think about it like that. I didn't think about it like that.
Well, I mean, listen, if you're gonna bring up paradoxes of vagueness, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to you have to understand what these are used for.
Listen,
right. There's not like you could say that there's like a given point at which people will start calling it morally wrong, but that's a semantic dispute. There's actually a dispute about the morals.
I got you. All right. Well, we can come back to this. I think it's safe to say you won. Dude, that is a funny orangutan. I think it's safe to say you won. We can come back to this. But I agree. All right. Thank you. For the debate. Let's do it again some other time. Goodbye. Ah! All right.
And he names up the call right there.
Oh, that's kind of that's sad. That makes me sad. Aiden, pick yourself up.
The entire time we're debating this, he's just like saying like, oh no, but like there has to be a hard line that must be drawn because of like the courts. Wouldn't be able to slip through the cases.
It's really funny because that is what like he tried to invoke a continuum fallacy to argue against your position, like saying that's what it is. That is the continuum fallacy. Like the idea that there must be a hard line, and if there is no hard line, there is no line at all. Like that's the whole point of bringing up like the paradox of the heap. The entire reason why you'd ever bring this up is just to show, look, things don't actually have to have the hard, rigid lines that are totally unclear that everyone agrees on. Turns out we can just have a line that's in like some approximate area, like vaguely in some area. What happened?
Oh, I gotta go pick up my buddy in a little bit. This is gay. Call me ASAP. I'm sorry if you're watching. I don't even think they fucking. I'm sorry. That was out of nowhere. That's totally fine for them to be asking me to call them. I agreed to take them somewhere and hang out. It's actually totally fine for them to say that. That's in like a couple of minutes.
Is this somebody the stream knows?
Oh, it's somebody that you know.
Okay.
The one you're making the beat for and shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, the fucking we gotta watch this offline together and just laugh about it. It's hysterical. It's super funny. I love this shit.
Good shit.
Like, oh, the commentary community is so funny. These people are so fucking. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. When are we gonna hang out, Punk? I don't fucking know. Fucking tell me when you're fucking. I don't know. You got fucking time or whatever. I don't know. I kind of like. I kind of just fuck around. I do my shit. Sometimes I'm not doing like
Where
work
are
or
you gonna
whatever.
hang out, buddy?
When the fuck you get out of the house? For the first time in 12 years. Somehow you keep the fucking tan the whole time. You and your people. Anyways, I'm gonna
Whoa!
pop off this stream because I gotta hang out with some. I gotta have a fucking life where I do things in the real world because this was not supposed to be a stream day. Not supposed to be a stream day at all. But Aiden wanted the debate.
When you gotta stream, you gotta stream.
You gotta stream,
Is that
you
what it
gotta
is?
stream. You have to stream, you have to stream. And just for that, I'm never streaming again in the next 4 billion years, actually. It's gonna be 2026, and we're coming back to streaming and all of that. You will never see me ever again. I'm gonna come back, and somebody else is gonna be hosting the stream. And I'm gonna be gone. Because I just got
A certain
obliterated in that debate.
blue-haired individual is taking it over.
Yeah, just a rebrand. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. It was good to see y'all pop in here today. I'll be around at some point. I'm gonna take, as I said before the stream, I'm gonna have to take a few days off of touching the Twitter and the dumb shit because I got a life to live outside of the camera. Outside of a fucking microphone. God. Alright. About to peace out. Y'all have a good time. Y'all are a little gay. Keep it that way. Alright. Have a good night. Fucking fat.